Good morning. Good morning to one and all. Welcome to the AISC Regional Debate 2021, hosted by Douglas Memorial Higher Secondary School, Barrackpore. Debate competitions are the most awaited literary event, popular among people of every age group. The objectives of debate competitions are to help participants think analytically and present their points in a logical sequence. It enhances the oratorical skills of every participant. We hope that the objectives will be fulfilled through this debate competition. I would now request the administrator of the school, Mr. Ashwin Kumar Medidi, to lead us to the Lord's Prayer. Sir.
Good morning, everyone. Let's all close our eyes in prayer. God, beloved Father, thank you, Jesus, for this day and this opportunity. I thank you, God, for blessing us. And my Lord, we thank you, God, for each and every participant that's present here. My Lord, we keep each and every one of them into your hands. We ask of your wisdom and your knowledge, my Father, my Lord, to be bestowed upon them. My Lord, we ask of you to bless the judges, my Father, the moderators, and everyone else that is associated with this debate competition, Almighty God. Bless ASIS, my Lord, we ask of your abundance of blessings to be with each and every one of us. Thank you for this wonderful day. We keep this time and this entire event into your hands. In Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I would now request the principal of the school, Ms. Sonia Gidla, to read out a few verses from the Holy Bible.
Good morning, everyone. Today's Bible reading has been taken from the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 29. Let no corrupt word proceed out of your mouth, but what is good for necessary edification, that it may impart grace to the hearers. May the Lord bless this verse. Amen.
Amen. We have the honor of welcoming the principal of this institution, Ms. Sonia Gidla, to this online debating session. We welcome you, ma'am, to the ASISC Regional Debate 2021. May I request you, ma'am, to speak a few words on this occasion?
Thank you so much, Ms. Bose, for welcoming. Once again, a very good morning, and I'd like to extend my heartiest gratitude to all who are present here, and special word of gratitude to Mr. Ranjan Mehta, the Secretary of ASIC, and also the Literary Committee for believing in us, for having faith in us as a school, and for giving us this opportunity to conduct and host on a virtual platform today's debate, that is the ASIC Regional Debate for West Bengal and Northeastern States, zonal level and senior category. Debating is one such skill that not only brings out confident speakers, but it keeps you informed, it keeps you alert in today's age and time. It makes you a better communicator, it makes you more approachable, and above all, it empowers you. And India being one of the largest democracies in the world, I feel that it is a privilege that we all enjoy as citizens of this country to practice dissent, to deliberate and discuss. So I wish all the participants the very best today. I feel if you stay focused, if you give your best shot, if you be yourself and speak your mind, you're already a winner. All the best and thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The Pool B debate for the senior category will be moderated by Ms. Shubharna Chatterjee, the academic in charge and senior teacher of the school. Ms. Remy Biswas will be the timekeeper for this part of the event. Over to you, Ms. Chatterjee.
Thank you, Ma'am Shashwati. Once again, a very good morning to all the principals, judges, dignitaries, teachers, and participants present in today's debate. Today is a big day as we have gathered to witness the prestigious ASISC Regional Debate Competition 2021. And I feel extremely honored to have been given the responsibility of moderating such a mega debate on a virtual platform. As educators, we all understand the importance of debating in school life. It not only promotes problem solving and innovative thinking, but at the same time, it helps students to build links between words and ideas that make concepts more meaningful. And to judge today's event, we have with us a panel of experts who have excelled in their own fields. And it gives me immense pleasure and pride to introduce and welcome the judges for today's debating session. We have with us Ms. Shreya Banerjee. Ms. Shreya Banerjee is an assistant teacher of GD Goenka Public School, Dakshineshwar, pursuing the professional career as a faculty of English for the past 10 years. She has been a spoken English trainer of Professional Institute of Studies, Kachrapara. Teaching is her passion, so she feels blessed to have taken it up as her profession. Ms. Banerjee believes in the motto to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Welcome, ma'am, to this debating session. Our next judge for today's event is Ms. Aparna Mukherjee. Ms. Mukherjee is a senior teacher of English language and literature at Indira Gandhi Memorial High School. She has a rich teaching experience that expands to a little more than 3 decades. Apart from academics, Ms. Mukherjee takes keen interest in guiding students to excel in extracurricular activities. She has mentored students in TTIS, Inter-School Fest, Spell Bee competitions. She also motivates and guides her students in publishing articles for quarterly e-magazine of the school. A hearty welcome to Ms. Aparna Mukherjee. Our next judge is Ms. Shoumi Chatterjee Ganguly. Ma'am Ganguly is an assistant teacher of English at Parashat Indira Gandhi Memorial High School. She's been teaching in that institution since 2012. Ma'am Chatterjee believes in educating, motivating, and persuading the learners to build a strong foundation for their success in future. She has a diploma in aviation, hospitality, and tourism management and NIELIT A level. She has keen interest in teaching and cooking. So we welcome once again all the 3 judges for today's debating session. Before we move on, I would like to specify the rules for today's debate. Participants, please listen to the rules carefully. Participants should avoid reading from a previously prepared script and any paper or aid. Each school can present only 2 participants, each in each category, one to speak for the motion and the other against the motion. Participants need to keep the video on constantly while speaking. Each speaker will get 3 minutes time to speak. I repeat, Each speaker will get 3 minutes time to speak. At the end of the second minute, a warning bell will be rung. The final bell will be sounded at the end of the third minute. Timing will start as soon as the participant starts speaking. Speaking for less than 2 minutes and more than 3 minutes will entail a deduction of 5 marks by each judge. The speakers will address the chair only. Unparliamentary language, personal comments, or observation on any religion, caste, community, political party, or individual are not allowed. And participants, please note that there will be no rebuttal session. Each participant will be marked on content, delivery, and overall impact. Now, the topic for today's debate. Online schooling is the way of the future. That is the motion for today. Online schooling is the way of the future. So wishing all the best to all the participants and looking forward to having an enjoyable and productive debating session. I would now like to call upon team number 25 of Pool B. Speaking for the motion, we have Adrika Shinjini. Adrika Shinjini, if you are here, kindly take the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. When most people think of education, they think about teachers at the front of classrooms full of students. However, when the coronavirus pandemic radically changed the way we do most things, including learning, the future of education started to look different. A very good morning to respected moderator, ma'am, judges, ladies and gentlemen. I am Adrika Shinjini and I stand firmly for the motion. Now, is there anyone here today who doesn't know what online schooling is? Well, after 17 months of learning from homes, we all know what online education is. Still, for those who might be confused about it, an online school teaches students entirely or primarily through the internet. According to Wikipedia, it can be defined as education that uses one or more technologies to deliver instruction to students who are separated from the teacher and to support regular and substantive interaction between the students. Research suggests that online learning has been shown to increase retention of information and take less time, meaning the changes coronavirus have created might be here to stay. Even before COVID-19, there was already high growth and adoption in education technology. Not so much in India, but on a massive scale in technically advanced countries like the US, the UK, and Australia, with global edtech investments reaching about $18.66 billion in 2019. And the overall market for online education will project to reach about $350 billion by 2025. Whether it is language apps, virtual tutoring, video conferencing tools, or online learning software, there has been a significant surge in usage since COVID-19. Now let's focus on why online schooling has such great demands and why it will be of utmost importance in paving the way to the future. Number one, it is flexible. Although our schools have a fixed schedule, online classes are recorded and can be viewed worldwide by various scheduled times whenever they want. The online courses which are given worldwide are streamed at different times, and also the recordings are posted online for those who couldn't attend it live to access whenever they want. Number two, a very essential point, as rightfully quoted by Paul Levinson, it can be a lifeline to those who have obstacles such as geographical distances or physical disabilities. People who want to avail an international course in a prestigious college but does not have the resources to fly out can easily go for this mode of education. And number 3, the most important one, it is the best friend of students when COVID-19 is creating trouble worldwide. Of course, we can't go to school and gather or even risk flying out to a different city or country for further education. And by the looks of it, masks and face covers will remain with us forever as the world slows down for this strange virus. So what should we do? Do we stop learning? No, we rely upon our good friends like Zoom or Google Meet for conferencing with our teachers and visit edu sites like Skillshare or Udemy to access online courses. And you know what the best part about this is? We can actually learn from professors from all over the world without actually visiting them. Isn't that exciting? Well, that would be all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adrika. May I now request Soham Datta from team 25. That's the motion. Soham Datta.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, Honorable Chair. My name is Soham Datta and I will be speaking against the proposition. Let me start by asking a few questions. When was the last time we had the privilege of sitting down with our friends and enjoying our lunch? When was the last time we were all impatiently waiting for the bell to ring for us to venture out to the field and have a good game of football? When was the last time we were in a completely different place, not even worrying about going back home? The answer is same for all of us. It's too long ago to remember. Now, online education is not the future. It shouldn't be. Online education has far too many ill effects for it to be a futuristic thing. Let me list down some of them. To begin with, the main problem of online education is that the students participating in this medium of education undergo things like contemplation, remoteness, and lack of interaction. This, when combined with them being isolated in their homes, can have serious mental illnesses like anxiety, depression, or stress. We cannot let this happen to our students, can we? Also, this leads to a lack of communicational skills development in students, because who cares if you can escape the world and its worries by just turning off your videos and audios? People will not communicate with each other. Another ill effect of online education is that it does not promote skill-based learning. Students are not learning to use practical skills, which should be one of the main aims of education. We cannot forget that in today's world, majority of industries require skill-based learning, and sadly, online education does not deliver that. Adding on to that, online examinations are very difficult to conduct. Cheating is very easy in online examinations. This is one of the main reasons why educational boards across the world are in a dilemma on how to conduct their examinations. Last but not the least, we live in India, where majority of the population still resides in rural areas. According to reports and studies, a huge population of students were forced to drop out of the schools and colleges just because of the fact that they cannot afford a smartphone or an internet connection. This would lead to a huge population having incomplete education, which would make it very difficult for them to obtain jobs, thus increasing the unemployment rate. If online education is indeed the future, then what sort of a future are we looking at, ladies and gentlemen? A future that is dark, a future where people can't even earn their own bread, can't even settle in their lives. As Nelson Mandela once said, that education is one of the most powerful weapons which you can use to change the world. But I believe that now education itself needs saving from the crutches of online learning. With that being said, I conclude my speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Soham. Our next contestant from team 26 and speaking for the motion is Anish Kumar Arun. Anish Kumar Arun, the floor is yours.
Am I audible?
Yes, Anish, you are.
Thank you. So over the past 200 years, we have come a very long way. We now have small tablets and vaccines that can treat diseases that were once considered incurable. And we're connected to people around the world by tiny devices that contain greater computing power than what was used for the Apollo 11 mission. But now the question here is that in spite of all of these change, our education system has remained constant. And the idea behind it is simple. If it ain't broke, what's the point of fixing it? All of that was true until the COVID-19 pandemic started last year, and we were forced to undergo the greatest paradigm shift ever seen in the history of education. And now, after over 16 months of sitting in front of a screen at home, who better than us to give our verdict about whether online schooling can be the future of education? And in my opinion, I do believe that online schooling, if modified, can be the future of education. Before I proceed any further, I would like to note one very important point. The argument today is not whether online education is perfect as it is today, but it is whether online education is a viable mode as a primary source of education for us in the future. And that I do believe it is. Here's why. First point, convenience. Now, for online classes, I can have a comfortable 7 hours of sleep, wake up relaxed, refreshed, and sit for classes. Whereas when I was coming to school, I had to wake up 2 hours before to catch the morning bus, rush in and out of the shower, and torture my gums in a very frantic episode of what one might call brushing. I can jump in and out of tuitions in a matter of 30 seconds by just typing in a few letters and numbers. But over here, something that my opponents might mention is the case of distraction, that online classes offer more distractions than offline classes. And to that, I say yes, but we must forget that if I am to consider social media and YouTube as distractions, I too must consider post-school and post-tuitions ARDAs as distractions. The fact of the matter is that distractions will be everywhere, and it is not on the basis of the system, but it is on a personal level about how we react to such distractions. My next point is the curriculum. One thing that we must note is that online education is the mode of education, but not the curriculum. And the curriculum that we have at this moment is very well suited for offline education. With the perils of COVID-19 at hand and the prospect of it staying for a very long time, it is inevitable that it has to go for a very long time. And it is inevitable that we might also need an educational system that is compatible with the needs of COVID-19. And for that, we do have the NEP system, which offers a far more flexible system wherein we have course-based regimented learning on a semester-by-semester basis, which quite frankly fits really well in the ethos of online education. Finally, we have a cost-benefit analysis. Both students can save a lot of money by availing courses abroad. They can save on school fees by having online schooling, and it can be beneficial even for schools in the long run. To conclude, I must add that it will be wrong on my part to say that online education as it is a perfect system. We must keep in mind that it is a system that is only 1.5 years old. It is far from new, and it is part of an education system that went unchanged for centuries. There are problems such as subject-based learning, including the science subjects. So what I would propose here is, in the long run, the safest bet would be an 80-20 system wherein majority of the subjects are taught online, but vocational and practical-based subjects still have a certain amount of contact wherein going to school is necessary. In order for us to come up with a viable solution, it is necessary for us to think outside the box. And while online learning is the best way to move forward for us, it is up to us students to come up with viable alternatives and viable sources to mix and match our solutions and come up with the ideal outcome. Well, that's my perspective. That's my ideas on these issues. Thank you very much for taking some time out and hearing me out, and have a great day.
Thank you, Anish. It was wonderful listening to you. Let me now pass the floor to Shamashri Mohanty of Team 26, who would be speaking against the motion.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Thank you, ma'am. Bells ringing loud and clear, the foundation and building grounds of a career. From playing in the fields, basking in the sun, and meeting our friends in person, to sitting long hours in front of a screen, trying to get through the day just to relive it all over again. Oh, how the times has changed, and I wish we could rewind time to the good old days again. A very good morning to one and all present here. I am Swamshi Mohanty, and I stand firmly against the motion that online schooling is the way of the future. In the past 2 years, we have seen a number of events: a pandemic starting, schools closing, lockdowns being implemented. It has affected the mental state and well-being of millions all over the world. Students, especially, have been finding it extremely arduous and burdensome to cope with online school. It would be an understatement if I said that online school is impractical. It is just not feasible. In a country like India, with such a vast population, of which 38 million students are there, it is impossible to equip every single child with technological devices. And before you say that the government can provide, the government can help, let me say this. The government does not have enough income to fund for millions of computers. But what if we provided to at least a section of students? Well, to that I say, if some students use computers for their learning and the others do not, it would create an educational disparity. Let me draw out another situation for everyone, a situation I'm sure we all have been in. Have you ever talked over your peer or your teacher or your student in a Zoom meeting? Mistime your interjection and you will disrupt the whole class environment. Not only is it non-viable, it is detrimental. Online schooling is not favorable for inculcating communication skills, leadership, critical thinking in students, the very skills that are crucial in the development of a child. Online education does not provide a space for active socialization of teachers, students, and students. With online school, students don't get a hand-on experience. It is not a holistic form of education. If the schooling system were to completely change to an online-based education, then the focus of teaching would also shift from practical methods to more theoretical ways of teaching. In the words of Albert Einstein, education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Practical learning allows you to learn quick adaptations needed for daily challenges and scenarios. I'm sure that all the teachers here want to take offline classes with their students, teach them, engage them in interactive sessions. I, as a student personally, sure do want to return to my school, meet my friends, prepare for the upcoming board examination with the help of questionnaires and experiments, and more importantly, enjoy the last year of my schooling. Thus, I would like to say that online schooling is most definitely not the way of the future. While it is beneficial to introduce technology to the current system, it cannot replace it. With this, I rest my case, but certainly not my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Shamashri. Well spoken. We now move on to our next contestant, Anushka Bhaumik from Team 27, speaking for the motion. Anushka Bhaumik.
Good evening to the respected chairperson and my fellow debaters. Today we have been given a very interesting topic, that online schooling is the way of future. And I am saying for the motion. So schooling is the effective interaction between the teacher and the student. But due to this COVID pandemic, we have been locked in our homes for a long time and we have to shift to this online mode. And if we think deeply, it is absolutely an effective mode of education. Workload has reduced and efficiency have increased. And as a student, I feel that I get more time to groom myself, self-study, rather going to school and sitting for 6-7 hours. People get more technologically aware. People get more technical knowledge and use them in their education. Education has become very speedy. We can go to any site and then in seconds we can gain knowledge at whatever topic we want. We can take examples of the YouTube education. There we have hundreds and hundreds of channels where we get our education from the experts from worldwide. Online classes are the best to check someone's dignity and nobility. We can reduce the cost of books by the PDFs, the ebooks, and the very debate that is held. It is also the online mode, and it is also part of the schooling. Experts teachers are also engaged, and we can reach to the remote areas where this live education is not possible. there we can use this online mode. Classes can also be recorded for better education. We can reuse it. Again, we can listen to the recording and revise it for many times. Then when we can use the other modes, like we have other coaching centers of online mode than sitting in the school. And then online medication keeps is the only way for learning, and technology is only the future, and online schooling is the way of the future education. And there are a lot of adversities. There may be in offline education also we have adversities, but as Shakespeare said, sweets are the uses of adversity. So with this, I rest my argument. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anushka, for sharing your thoughts. We now invite Shubham Basak to speak against the motion.
Am I loud and clear?
Yes, Shubham.
So good morning to the respected members present here. So today our topic is that online schooling is the way to the future, and I am going to talk against this motion. So at first it comes to our mind that online schooling has always taught us how we are interacting to the teachers, which is most probably neglected during our online classes. The only difference between physical classes and online classes is that in physical classes, students used to shout and disturb the teacher, where the teacher had to stop them. And in online classes, the teacher had to request the students to respond, which is not being gained by the teachers. More oftenly now, let me get to the factual things, that in our West Bengal, there are 76% of literacy, but 33 is our mobile literacy. So most of the people don't know how to use the phones, how they are not getting the smartphones, or they are not getting those facilities to have the online classes. Moreover, in all our nation, the mobile, they are like 42% of mobile usage. So we must be seeing that through this analytical thing, we can get to the point that most of the part of our country is unable to use the opportunity to be in the online classes. Moreover, it's like a psychological fact that like for 2 years or more than that, we are being sitting in a corner of our rooms, we are doing our works, we are not being engaged to our friends and family, friends and teachers, and all those sports which we used to do in our physical classes. That's where a student lacks, and that's what makes a student lazier. Moreover, in online classes, what we get is PDFs and all those. Now, it's up to the student that whether he will download it, he will read it, and most probably the student might be not engaged to reading it. More often, the students, what they do in our online classes, it's like disturbing the teachers. If one person gets a word, the whole, it will form into a chaos, which is a drawback of the online classes. Moreover, if I come to the physical classes, we are having interactions with the teachers visually. I mean, we are having the interactions where the teachers can say that. And in our online classes, there is like a lack of network. The student's voice might crack, the teacher's voice might crack, the proper message which they want to spread to the students, it might not be able to go. And more often, if we talk about voice messages and all those, students are not listening to those things, rather than they are. And that's what I wanted to say, and thank you.
Thank you, Shubham. Our next contestant is Arpita Chaudhary, speaking for the motion, Team 28. Arpita Chaudhary.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Arpita.
Good morning to the respected chairpersons. I am Arpita Chaudhary, and I am speaking for the House that yes, online schooling is the way of the future. The concept of traditional education has been changed in the past couple of years. Now, being physically present in a classroom is not the only way for learning. Nowadays, we are having a quality of access that whenever and wherever we want to study, we can learn. We are now entering into a new era, that is the revolution of online learning. As we all know that COVID-19 has resulted in school shutdown all over the world. Over 1.2 billion children are out of the classroom. As a result, education has changed dramatically with the distinctive rise of e-learning. While it started with a very good note, as week passed by, initially excitement towards online learning kept on decreasing. Disadvantage started to get exposed. But when it comes to e-learning, students find it difficult to hold their attention when a live lecture extends to 2 to 3 hours. While students find it difficult to stay attentive, educators to find it exhausting to sit in front of the screen and keep a class engaged for hours. To make this practice more effective, the teachers could do pre-recorded sessions, lectures for a particular session, and then they could conduct live online lectures just to solve the doubts of the student and to expound on the topics taught in the lesson. This way, students did not sit through live online lectures for hours. They could finish the pre-recorded lectures in phases based on their convenience. And similarly, the duration of live lectures would be lesser since they would only cover doubts of students. The engagement would be better. And one of the other drawbacks of online classes is the lack of interaction and engagement. This is directly detrimental to both the teachers and students. To overcome this disadvantage, teachers could ensure that they include more activities in the live lecture in the form of conducting calls, conducting quizzes, and organizing group activities in breakout rooms. This could make sure that a student not only stay focused, but also has an immersive learning experience. Conducting online examinations might be one of the trickiest things for the institution. This is because there is a higher possibility that students could be collating and writing the exam, do it with the help of a friend, or could be engaged in any other similar unethical practices. As a result, online examination might not accurately determine the ability or knowledge of a student. So instead, schools and universities could have multiple ways of conducting assessments, including online assignments. I want to conclude my speech that the student presented evidence that despite some challenges, undergraduate dental students could adapt to the new learning methods of distance learning and agreed on better efficiency experience in distance learning than in the classroom learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Arpita. Before I move on, I would request all the participants to please adhere to the timing given. 3 minutes time you need to speak. So now I would like to pass the floor to Naina Jha from Team 28. Naina Jha.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes.
Education is the most powerful weapon for the using of the people. But if you are not enjoying, you are not networking, you are not learning it properly, then you are using it wrong. For this, I would like to connect it with online classes. It often happens, but first, I would like to introduce myself. Good morning, judges, respected chairpersons. I, Naina Jha, from 11 of Holy Family Convent School, Lilwa, is going to speak against the motion. Today, online classes is very much spread all over the world, or we can say only in India. But for me, it is spread all over the world just because of coronavirus, which has awakened the sleeping giant and has led to the universities to open the online classes and conduct the lectures. There are several reasons to which I would like to connect that online classes is not the future for the students. It connects to my personal life too. I would like to say that recently I have passed my class 10 standard and I have got the result. But since I have passed, but I'm since afraid that it could affect my future. Whenever I would like to go to take a job, it would surely affect, because if I would ask that yes, I have passed class 10 in 2021 and I was candidate there, so it would obviously affect me. Coming to the main point, there are several disadvantages of online learning. The first one, which I would like to give, is technological issues. It often happens. Several teachers, several students are not able to connect properly with the teachers. And it happens to me too, because whenever I connect, I always have a poor connectivity, and it often happens with me during external and internal assessments during online classes. It often helps me to join the classes and understand the topic very nicely, but it disturbs me during the exams due to the poor connectivity, and also the people in rural areas have a difficulty to attend the classes. Teachers also might have poor connectivity issues, due to which they are not able to connect to the teachers properly. They are not able to ask them, but if they would be present practically in the class, physically in the class, they would ask their doubts and they would clear it very nicely. The second which I would like to give is the sense of isolation. The teachers want that students could be very much attracted to the topics which they discuss in the class, and they might be very serious with the studies which they would like to teach them. And during this pandemic situation, I'm very much sure that the teachers are also not very much happy that they are not able to take offline classes, and it is obviously affecting their jobs too, just because if they will teach them not better like they were teaching in offline classes, it would affect them. The third topic which I would like to give is unemployment. Coming to the point, which is the main topic, future. If the students are not well trained offlinely, then it would obviously affect their India unemployment rates, due to which the students who are passing now will not get their jobs. So, from my point of perception, you can enjoy the class offline, but it is better for the students who just use it ideally. Most of the students join the class but don't attend it nicely. So, from my perception, it is not the future of the students, not the future of the generations coming up, the students. And so I would like to say that it is not the future, and we should not waste it. Offline classes are the most prominent and most important. Just because of this pandemic situation, we are not able to join them. And if we are joining the classes, it will obviously affect the students and teachers too. So here I conclude, and thanks for taking out the time for me. Thank you, judges, and thank you, the teachers.
Thank you, Bhavna. May I now request Sargam Banerjee to take the floor. Sargam Banerjee is speaking against the motion, and I request all the participants to please adhere to the timings.
Ma'am,
Sargam Banerjee.
ma'am, team 29 for the motion is left.
Ma'am, this was
Team 29 for the motion was Bhavna Jha.
No, ma'am, that was Naina Jha from team 28.
All right, I'm so sorry. So now we'll have Bhavna Jha speaking for the motion, team 29.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Once Swami Vivekanand had said in his letter to the Maharaja of Mysore in June 1894 that the one thing that is the root cause of all evils in India is the condition of the poor. If we want to, the only service we can provide to the lower classes is providing them education and developing their individual identity. A very good morning to all my judges, dear moderator, and all my fellow debaters. I, Bhavya Jha, am here to speak for the motion that online schooling is the way of future. We all know online schooling is the fastest, greatest mode of education, and everyone is accepting it worldwide. Firstly, it is flexible and comfortable for both the student and the teacher, as it helps them to form their respective study space. It helps in time management and provides a good work-study balance. Now we can well imagine those days when we had to rush in the morning, get a bus, and then travel for 2 hours to get to our school. Now those times are gone. We don't have to waste too much time on transportation, and we can just sit, open our laptops, enter few numbers, and yes, we are in your class. So that time can be utilized in self-study activities. Now, online education is way accessible to everyone across the entire country. Many of my fellow debaters pointed out that many children cannot access the education, those are of poor families, because of the monetary balance. So I would like to add that due to the data push and due to the low cost data revolution and data push given by the government, the online using and the data using numbers have increased significantly. India now have more rural internet users compared to urban internet users. It was the first time in 2019 that India had rural internet users more than the urban. That was exactly like 227 million of rural and 205 million from Indian. And among those Indian users, 58% of them were from the age group 16 to 29. Then we can clearly have an idea that they can better access the online platform and it makes them easier for the online learning. It is also beneficial to the students who are less expressive, they are shy. To them, they're shy in those hollowing classes of 40 where the teacher is not able to interact with each and every student. So the student teacher interaction has also increased due to this online learning. Then the materials are also made available in many different languages, which enables the student to access them from across the entire country. And we cannot forget the problem of shortage of staff in the rural areas, which is very eminent. And via this online learning, we can also overcome that. Now, since the paper checking is in the digital format, the teachers have to spend less time or no time on grading the workbooks. Rather, they can spend more time with the students individually, making them more better. Now, the questions framed nowadays, like we have also seen that the board pattern has changed for class 12 and class 10. The questions framed now are of more analytical approach than of mugging the facts, dates, and histories and examples. It is focusing on logical ability of the student to think. So that is why it is also improving the approach of the students towards learning. One of my fellow debaters also pointed out that the government cannot provide a proper infrastructure to the students so that they can access e-learning. While I would like to add that certain government initiatives like Yukti Portal, Swayam Prabha, E-Basta, E-Vidya are some initiatives by the government which has been very helpful for the students to access the e-learning, and it has improved the infrastructure of the learning. Next, I would like to add that in the 2021, it is predicted that almost 761 million users are using internet right now, and we can see the numbers are basically in between the age of 16 to 20, which clearly says, and it is also an point that by these numbers, it means that the youth is using internet more often. Yes, ma'am?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have crossed your 3 minutes duration.
Ma'am, it was not audible, the bell.
The bell was not audible?
No, ma'am.
You have. I'll just check with the timer, the timekeeper.
Okay, ma'am, let me conclude.
Yes, please. Thank you, sir.
Lastly, everyone has heard the joke about mobile phones being not used in the schools, while now they are the only source of learning for the students. So we should know that nature is very spontaneous and we should adapt by it because adapt by it in order to survive. So I firmly believe that online learning is the way of future where technical learning has a greater stake. Therefore, I rest my case here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhavna. I would request Ms. Rimi Viswas to please ring the buzzer a little loud so that the participants may hear. Thank you, Rimi ma'am. Our next contestant speaking against the motion from team 29 is Sarkam Banerjee. Sarkam Banerjee, the floor is yours. Sarkam Banerjee from team 29. I think Sargam Banerjee is not with us, present in this meet. So we'll move on to team 30. We'll give Sargam Banerjee a chance if he's able to join us. Moving on to team 30, the speaker for the motion is Divyavrata Chatterjee. So Divyavrata Chatterjee, kindly take the floor.
Some say wisdom comes with age, while some say wisdom comes from learning. Good morning to one and all present here from St. Agnes School, Barrackpore. I am Divyavrata Chatterjee of Class 12 Science, here to speak for the motion. Online schooling is a way to future. We know that as humans, we all are inclined to the in-person interactions, be it studying at school or working a job.
Please carry on. You are audible, Divyavrata Chatterjee. Please carry on.
Okay, Miss, thank you, Miss. We know it is true that all humans are inclined to in-person interactions, be it working a job or studying at school. We are still yet to learn. However, internet advancements have broken all the boundaries. The teacher and student interactions have enhanced even more, for the students might be shy at some time. The students and teachers are hereby accept the new responsibilities, new form of responsibilities, in fact, and participate in teaching learning process in more advanced way. Not only it is flexible, but also it is convenient as it enhances the learning pace no matter where we are. Some of us might interact with the fact that there are distractions when we learn in mobile phones or in internet, wherever we want. But distractions are there everywhere. If we choose not to get distracted, who can stop us from learning? If we choose not to enhance with our favorite YouTubers videos and learn a new language instead, that's our own personal growth. It also brings education to our doorsteps and flickers out all those obnoxious excuses that the children make, that they had to attend the brother's wedding or had to go to the grandma's house. We can also have the abundance of knowledge in internet from all across the world, not only from the Indian educators, but also from Western educators. Many of us have been saying that Indian education system is not as good as the Western education system. So we can get into that procedure as well, and maybe we can study abroad. Apart from this, we also have the biggest thing, that is, there's no losing of handwritten notes. And if there's no losing of handwritten notes, we also have another one benefit. And that benefit is the costliest of the costliest books are present in ebook formats. And it breaks the boundary of economic crisis. Apart from this, we also get the self-study. We also get the time to be involved in self-study techniques and to understand our personalities better. Also getting involved in what we want to become as a human being, to choose a career and also lead us to personal growth. Apart from these teachers and all the ones who are hearing me, I want to thank to the ones who have brought us the bliss of internet connection or online coaching. Thanking them, the ones who have invented Zoom or any other internet platform, for it not only connects us from soul to soul, from person to person amidst the pandemic, but also connects us as person in any of the disasters we face, even the ones at Afghans.
99.
Oh. Thank you, Miss. Thank you. That's all for today.
Thank you, Divyavrata Chatterjee. Moving on, I would like to invite Srijit Das from Team 30 speaking against emotions. Srijit Das.
Thank you, ma'am. In words of Swami Vivekananda, a nation is advanced in proportion to the education and intelligence spread among the masses. Good morning to one and all present here. I am Srijit Das and I would be speaking against the motion. What is education? Is it just subject knowledge? No, it's not just subject knowledge. It's the combination of subject knowledge with leadership skills, development of social skills, and also with the very essence of learning our culture and heritage. What has online education harmed us is not what we can see today. It will be seen after 20 years when these students who are now doing the online classes will go for jobs. Maybe students have become the introvert students can interact personally with the teacher, but that does not mean they are becoming extroverts. They are still becoming introverts, but they are thinking themselves they have become extroverts. When they go for interview, they will face that no, we can't. We are facing anxiety issues. Now, speaking of uh, going to online class, doing online classes and sitting with a friend and doing the off physical classes, the essence is very different. Sitting with your friend and doing the classes, it also helps in a moral boost that, yeah, my friend is there. If I don't get a small bit of knowledge, he will share with me later. And speaking of traveling to school with your friends in a bus or a van or on cycle is is a different thing. It has a different fan base. It's love for us. I personally believe going with traveling with your friends or your companions to the school is the best thing you can have as a student. Now, speaking of active learners, everyone is saying that students need to be active learners and they should learn. Okay, it's good for us to a student when you're belonging to the senior category. But what about the young kids who are just exposed to the education system? They are not active learners. They just want to play. If they are exposed to the online education, they will not like it. I have heard many of my young brothers saying, I hate online education. They just say, I hate online education. What is the uh, result of this? They will get agitated toward the education system. They will not like to go to schools later. In my case, even I face difficulties from transforming to offline education to online education. It was not at all good for me. And speaking of how young kids would go from that, they don't even know the fellow classmates of them. They only know two or three whose parents may have contacted with their parents and they somehow know them. That's all they finish. They don't even know the unknown students and they remain unknown and they meet only when they go to the physical classes. And we are seeing that we will not have physical classes for more than a year. So this is not how it will work. Now, speaking of India, a country with a huge socio-economic divide, the uninterrupted power services in areas, low connectivity or even no connectivity in remote areas, how will those students attend online classes? It's we have being of a country of 130 crores in 2021, we have only 40 crore users of internet. And if someone says that if we multiply it with 4 and get an average, we'll get a family. No, a family can have more than 3 to 5 users. A single user can have more than 3 to 5 accounts. So it's not that we have many users. It's around 80 to 90% people are still not able to accustomed to the online education. Now, speaking of the effectiveness of online education, there is a report that suggests that 50% students want to drop out of school because of online education. 50% students want to drop out. It's not something what we should expect. Now, what should be done is neither should we depend on online education nor should we depend on offline education. Online education can never be the base of the education system. It can be a supporting pillar. What can be done is we can have physical classes in school. Online classes can be used for doubt clearing and other such stuffs in one-to-one teacher-student contact. That's good for it. But for basis of an education system, it's not what we can desire it to be. And moreover, the recorded videos which are available on YouTube, they promote a type of rote learning among the students. They don't encourage students to hear. Means we have a mentality that okay, if we don't hear that, we can again go back and hear that. But in class, we have to be attentive. That's our self-instinct that yes, if we don't.
Your time is over. Srijit, please conclude your speech.
Okay.
Your time is over.
I would like to conclude with the fact that online education can be the supporting system for an physical education. Thank you.
Thank you, Srijit. Our next participant from Team 31 is Hardik Gupta, speaking for the motion. Hardik Gupta.
Am I visible and audible?
You are audible, but I don't see you on screen.
Now I am visible.
Yes, you are. Yes, Hardik.
Sir Leonardo da Vinci once said that studying without desire spoils the memory and retain nothing that it takes in. So physically just being present in a class without any desire to learn is not an option anymore with the advancement of technology and internet nowadays. Good morning, my respected chairperson, dear judges, and my worthy opponents. Today, I Hardik Gupta here to speak for the motion which reads, online schooling is the way of future. I don't understand how can the opposition argue against the motion when we all know that online schooling served as a savior of education. I repeat, online schooling served as a savior of education. Yes, I vehemently agree with this motion because online learning is very flexible. It creates a own way for teachers and students too for the teaching learning process. Sir Aristotle correctly pointed out that educating the mind without educating the heart is not at all education. So online schooling is the best way for educating mind as well as heart. And there is an added advantage of setting a schedule that fits for all. I would like to state that over 30% of students in US are adopting online distance course. So why it is not possible in India? So why we always have to follow a traditional way of learning? Furthermore, I would like to state that online education is very accessible. We just need a strong internet connection and we can access it all around the world. And we do not have to follow that rigid schedule of traveling, going to school, coming back. We just need to open our laptop and do the classes. For example, if you are studying abroad and you want to take up a job, online education is the best way so that you do not give up on working as well as studies. One of my fellow debater pointed out that 50% of the students want to drop out from the school because of online learning. I don't know from where he got that stat, but according to my research, 60% of the internet users, 80% of the company and 50% of the institutions are using e-platform nowadays for teaching learning process. Sir Aristotle once again said that root of education is bitter, but the fruit is very sweet. Yes, I contradict myself that online learning can be difficult sometimes because of poor connection, but we have to face this challenge and because its fruit will be very sweet. Last but not the least, it is very cost effective and it's the best way for learning budget management. At last, I would like to conclude by contradicting one of my fellow debater as he pointed about young kids that they don't know proper thing about the technology. They want to attend the physical classes. Yes, I agree with your point, my dear friend, but change is inevitable. Everything changes with the time and we should accept the change. And if one does not accept the change, he's not made for the future. And it's irony that we're debating on an online platform that online schooling is the way of future or not. Thank you. I rest my case here, but not my stance.
Thank you, Hardik. I would now like to call Tanush Seal from the same team, that is Team 31, to present your speech. Tanush Seal.
Ma'am, am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. As stated previously, my name is Tanush Seal, and today I am here to speak against the motion. A lot of my predecessors who spoke in favor of the motion highlighted that online education provides flexibility and freedom to the online learners. However, as it has been rightly said, that with great power comes great responsibility. I would like to ask everyone present here whether we, the learners,
are capable of taking this responsibility upon ourselves? I hardly think so. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we all have seen how the students have repeatedly and constantly violated the academic integrity of exams. Then they have procrastinated, they have bunked classes, they do not respond in the classes. Then I also want to highlight my second point is that online education relies upon active learning, where the students have to learn everything themselves, and the educators are reduced to mere givers of information. Now, this might work perfectly for subject in which the learner has a keen interest, but what about those subjects where the learner doesn't share that kind of zeal? I would like to cite my own example here. I absolutely detested the subject geography. However, my geography teacher persisted with me. She encouraged me, motivated me, helped me to excel in the subject, and I secured good marks in that subject. Had this been an online scenario, would it have been possible? Then my third point is that our beloved poet Kaviguru Rabindranath Tagore emphasized upon holistic learning and development of holistic learning, which included physical and mental development of children. He emphasized on linking nature with education. But the only thing that online education does is takes the children away from this nature. We have seen many reports and research emerging where it says that the students are now more stressed, sleep deprived, and depressed due to this online mode of education. Online education isolates the children and does not help them in any way. A lot of my previous speakers who spoke against the motion very well highlighted that online education is the lack of accessibility and availability of online education. I would like to add that the countries which are extremely developed, like United States of America and Europe, are actually trying to return as soon as possible to online education. With this, I would like to conclude by saying this pandemic has reinforced our belief in the physical mode of education, and the physical mode of education is here to stay. And online way of education is definitely not the future, and I vehemently oppose the stance. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanush. Before I move on to the next participant from Team 32, I believe Sargam Banerjee is here with us from Team 29. Sargam Banerjee, am I audible to you?
Ma'am, she's not in the meeting. Can we hear us after a moment?
Yes. Okay, now moving on. Team 32, the speaker for the motion, Isfahan Khan. The floor is yours, Isfahan. Are you there, Isfahan? Your audio, I believe, is not connected. Isfahan Khan, please connect to the audio. From Team 32, Isfahan Khan, please connect to your audio.
Actually, ma'am, they're having network issues because the child is there in Bangladesh right now.
Okay. All right, ma'am. So we'll move on to Astha Tejashwini Raj from Team 32, who will be speaking against the motion. Astha Tejashwini Raj.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
A very good morning, everyone. I am Astha Raj, and I strongly oppose the motion. Online schooling is the way of future. I had to come all the way to my school to participate in this debate competition just because my school has a good internet connectivity. In fact, it is the only place in my hometown with a stable and decent internet connection, whereas every other place in my hometown has very poor internet connection. The USA and many other Western countries have internet penetration over 80%, whereas in India, it is only 40%, which means although the future is looking bright for those who have access to a decent internet connection and latest technology. But what about the millions in the country who are not as privileged? According to the article written in the Education World this year in June, the Union Education Ministry has stated the number of children being deprived of online education. 14 million students in Bihar have no access to online classes just because they do not have the devices. Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and Jammu and Kashmir have reported 70% of children in the states have no access to devices. What does the future hold for these children? During this pandemic, we all had to shift to virtual learning. The increased screen time uses led to me spoiling my eyes. My eyesight weakened over the months of online school. I don't want to become completely blind with the online class becoming the way of future. Online classes provide more stimuli capable of distractions. Students tend to switch over apps while their classes is going on. This has happened with me and almost all of my friends many a times. Online study makes it easier to procrastinate. With recorded sessions, one does not fully concentrate on the live session that is being conducted because one always has an option to watch whatever has been taught again. Also, it requires very good time management skills, which I'm sure most of us lack to attend online classes. Online schooling for students, especially in the primary and secondary school, is quite inconvenient because a child needs to be supervised constantly. My own brother, who's just 7 years old, cannot do his online classes on his own because he does not understand the computer language. My mother needs to be there with him and monitor him constantly. Now, my mother is a teacher. When the lockdown is lifted and she has to go back to school again, she will not be able to monitor my cousin, my brother again. It is quite inconvenient for parents who are working. I would like to conclude by saying what Charles Dickens said a long time ago. Electric communication will never be a substitute for the face of someone who with their soul encourages the person to be brave and true. Thank you.
Thank you, Astha. I would now like to invite Muhammadul Islam Rayan from Team 33 to speak for the motion. I guess, are you Muhammadul Islam Rayan?
No, I am part of Team 32, teammate of Astha Tejaswini Raj.
Ishfan Khan, right. Yes, Ishfan. You can take the floor.
Yes, Ishfan Khan. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible?
You are audible, but I don't see you on the screen.
All right.
I guess your video is switched on.
Despite the criticism, I'm sorry, miss. Do I start now?
Yes, please.
Can you see me?
Yes, Isfahan.
Despite the initial skepticism, online classes have proved to be an effective alternative to the traditional teaching methods. During the pandemic, we saw a global shift from the usual classrooms to the online and virtual platforms. However, people mistake this transition to be a complete replacement to the current face of education, that online learning does not require the presence of teachers, that is replacing the position of educators. George Couros has something to say about this. Technology will never replace great but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. We view online learning not as a replacement, but as an enhancement of the teacher's overall ability to educate their students. A very good morning to everyone again. I am Isfahan Khan, and I speak for the motion that online learning is in fact the way to the future. However, if we are to further delve into the topic, we must eradicate said misconception if we are to truly and effectively employ all that online learning has to offer. The existence of online courses, and not to mention their quality, proves the viability of this method in the learning world. Students often, while pursuing a course, simultaneously embark and indulge in taking up online courses that will further assist them on the path that they have chosen. The most remarkable aspect of the online world has been its ability to break the general physical boundaries. The development of education through online platforms has already opened up a lot of doors and will continue to do so, and break the usual constraints of the four walls of a classroom. Regarding these physical boundaries, one very crucial example that I would like to bring up is the fact that many students who wish to pursue a course online abroad, not online abroad in other countries, are unable to do so simply because of the fact that they can't afford the exorbitant living expenses of that country, despite having acquired a scholarship. My sister also wanted to pursue a course on journalism in England, however, was unfortunately unable to do so because of the well-known high living standards of the country. I, on the other hand, have been fortunate enough to take up several online courses that would not have been possible if I had to physically be present to attend these lessons. My cousin, who is also a science student, has had the opportunity to pursue a course on psychology from Yale University, all owing to the online learning sessions. Elon Musk states, you can literally learn anything for free online. You can become a person of value in a matter of months. Just a few years ago, this was not possible. If you were lucky enough to be born in this era, make full advantage of it. We have witnessed and absorbed all that the current schooling system has to offer for years and countless generations. If the education world is to keep up with the ever-changing times, a change, and a drastic one at that, is long overdue. My opponents claim that our country is not yet ready or ill-equipped to implement online lessons, but we aren't arguing if online schooling can be implemented now, but its viability and feasibility of being incorporated in the educative process in the future, when we are bound to be better equipped. In an age of digital boom, online classes are the next big, and if given the push, we are bound to discover the untapped potential that it has to offer. Students are not the same as before, and schools should follow suit and bring about a change that involves the incorporation of online learning methods gradually, if not immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Isfahan Khan. My next, I would like to call upon Mohammed Islam Rayan, representing Team 33, speaking for the motion. Mohammed Islam Rayan. I guess the participant is not available currently. So I would request Arpita Chaudhary from the same team to speak against the motion. Arpita Chaudhary.
They both are not here in the meeting now.
Right. They both are not here. So we'll move on to Team 34. We have Naman Madhur as a speaker, speaking for the motion. Naman Madhur. Naman Madhur, please connect to audio or video.
Um, Good morning, ma'am. Am I audible and
Yes,
visible?
you are. Yes, you are.
Okay, ma'am. A very good morning to everyone present here. Today, I, Naman Madhur, will be speaking for the motion online schooling is the way of the future. Way back in the 2000s, the world was sure that the internet was a passing fad. Businesses adopted it into their business model on the off chance that it may attract some customers. Other businesses did not bother at all. Today, those companies are out of business, and yet the internet has prevailed. The point here is some change is always good, no matter if we think it is or not. Online schooling, as we are all aware, is defined as the imparting of learning with the help of online environments and tools. The term way of the future refers to something gaining popularity as the years go by and finally becoming the predominant force sometime in the future. Now, before I discuss the effectiveness and ease of online schooling, let us first understand the second half of the motion, which, in my opinion, is the most important part. Way of the future allows us to understand that the motion is not proposing that we are ready to quit physical schooling right away. The use of the term future tells us that the motion means this mode of schooling is yet to be unlocked to its full potential. It's true, many children still don't have access to internet and the required technology. Many children are not tech savvy yet, as they are first generation learners. The point is, these things can be changed with time and training. Thankfully, the motion allows us that luxury. Now, how effective exactly is online schooling? All major reports say extremely. Cost wise, online schooling costs only 50 to 60% of the cost of traditional schooling. Time wise, students have a lot more time to assimilate and understand learning material at their own pace. Memory wise, students grasp concepts up to twice as fast, according to a study by Yushi Misiri. As for the younger children, the problems of low attention span and social awkwardness can be solved with gamification of studies and physical playtime, respectively. To avoid loneliness and awkwardness among growing students and teenagers, parents should encourage physical meetups and outdoor time. I know this sounds ridiculous in the current pandemic time, but this will certainly be possible in the future, as the motion suggests, as the pandemic will not last as long as all future time. Of course, physical schooling is required for certain features as well: practical application classes and physical education classes. These infrastructures will have to be maintained by a school. This limited form of traditional schooling can and should be a part of schooling in the future, but online schooling will be the driving predominant force. As I hope I have been able to establish, online schooling is indeed a thing of the future yet. We have not unlocked its full potential so far, but in the end, when we do, it should be the clear choice of preferred schooling, as long as the existing problems are solved in the meantime. With this, I come to the end of my arguments and conclude that online schooling is very clearly going to be the way of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Naman, for sharing your thoughts. Our next contestant is Sharanya Bhattacharya from Team 34, speaking against the motion. Sharanya Bhattacharya, the floor is yours.
Ma'am, am I visible and audible?
You are audible, but I don't see you on screen.
Ma'am,
If you're
am I
not
not visible?
connected to the video, please do so.
Ma'am, I have.
Yes. Yes, Sharanya, we can see you.
Yes, ma'am. May I start then?
Yes, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Woke up this morning. I knew I had a speech to give. Unlike every other day of this week, this month, or this year, of staring at a dull laptop screen, I had to speak like I have always loved to. Speaking, a skill I picked up at school, shouting at friends and reasoning with teachers as to why homework was missing. And that thought made me smile. The best of mornings to you, respected panel of adjudicators and fellow speakers. I am Sharanya Bhattacharya, and today I stand in strong opposition to the motion, online schooling is the way to the future. To begin with, I'd like to define online learning. Online learning is that form of distance learning that takes place through the internet. The other important part of the motion is future. The future doesn't imply 5 to 10 to 20 years from now. It implies the indeterminate and vast span of time we have in front of us. Having established that, I present to you the following arguments in support of my stance. Schooling on different levels has traditionally been our means for education. School isn't just pages of notes. It's the first avenue of socializing for a child outside home. A physical classroom is symbolized not just by the transfer of power, but also by social interaction, participation, empathy, holistic and mental growth. Online classes have robbed students of not just that, but the chance of sharing tiffin, of running through the basketball court, of singing at school concerts, of dancing in the rain together, despite the inevitability of scolding, and every other activity you only get to do once at school. E-learning is promoting social isolation, both in teachers and students, leading to grave anxiety and depression, as various studies show. It is often extremely difficult to explain certain concepts, integral for a child's academic progress online. Even if a concept is successfully introduced, pages of theory are taught, while we see no practical application or hands-on experimentation pertaining to it whatsoever. I, for one, have by-hearted pages of chemical equations, and boy, was that trouble. Without knowing what they actually looked like. Now I ask you, can we afford to have entire generations plagued by mental health issues who haven't had the chance of interacting with individuals their age, children who did not step out of their homes and do not know what the world is like for real to be the driving force of our nations? Can the future stand on shoulders carrying minds that quit classes to binge on Game of Thrones? And this is coming from experience. I think not. A further pressing argument is the fact that the future belongs to children and young adults all the world over. It includes not just those of us for whom education is one click away, but also the 1.3 billion children aged 3 to 17, that's 2/3 of the world's school-going population, who do not have access to internet, the millions and billions who do not have access to the requisite technology. Every child counts. When we say e-learning is the future, we mean a future so incredibly biased and unequal that the ever-widening gap between the rich and poor will become unbridgeable. Is that the future we want? Is that the future we want? With that question to negate the motion, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharanya. Moving on, we have Team 35, and we have Ojasvi Yogi as a speaker, speaking for the motion. Ojasvi Yogi. Ojasvi, please connect yourself to the audio. Check your connectivity. We are not able to hear you.
Am I audible as of now?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, now I'll begin. This pandemic is just the start of a host of difficult situations that humanity is going to face. There will be more diseases in the future, and climate change is inevitable. Good morning to everyone present here. My name is Ojasvi Yogi, and I will be speaking in favor of the motion today. Frankly speaking, it is unlikely that we will ever go back to the traditional way of schooling. We started at gurukuls under trees, and then we moved on to brick and mortar inside school buildings. Now, as we move on, there is no limit to the progress in terms of the resources that we can avail. Progress will always happen, and there is no point in denying the inevitable. There has been an irreversible paradigm change with the pandemic. The older generation's rejection of the idea that online things could prevail is probably what motivates many people to speak against this. The speakers before me have seemed to reject it and have also confused online schooling with e-learning, where there is a distinctive difference. I will elucidate further this. Now, the opposite side might keep talking about the issue of the digital divide or accessibility, which I will address further later. But they have failed to take into account the fact that online school has acted as an equalizer to many students as well. The traditional schooling system has not been the most inclusive to those with different needs from the norm. Audio and visual learners find it easier to consume information through videos and other tools that are available online, and they might have not been able to access that information or absorb it as effectively as they can now. This makes learning more experiential and more personalized, which are both buzzwords of today, and more parents seek out this sort of learning for their wards, and online schooling is the answer to this. And in addition to that, The differently able also find it easier to learn from the comfort of their home. School infrastructure may not have been as accommodating to their needs as they needed. But now, when things are online, they can stay at home. And additionally, things such as virtual labs are used to conduct things such as practical experiments where they may not have been able to participate as much as they need. Another myth that side opposition will try to feed you today is that online schooling will not prepare students for the difficulties of the real world. Now, online schooling, which is something all students will face now, makes for a more supportive and inclusive environment, which will be carried over into the society of tomorrow, which will not be the same as it is now anyway. Social and emotional learning have come to the forefront of today's demands and are being catered to through a plethora of online tools such as Padlet. Students are able to update teachers to their needs, whether they are emotional or social. And this contributes to a population which is not only academically intelligent, but also emotionally and socially intelligent. And this is the need of the future. Accessibility and the digital divide are valid talking points, but what people have missed today is that they are attacking the logistics of online learning and have not been able to discredit online learning as such. We have already established that online learning is more inclusive, accommodating, and sustainable than traditional schooling. And finally, people have been talking about online learning in the present day scenario. Yes, there are issues of implementation, but in the future, infrastructure will further develop and will be able to accommodate online schooling for everybody. Hence, it is ignorant to say that online schooling is not the way of the future, and hybrid learning is only really a temporary solution until everything shifts online. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Jaswin Yogi. We'll now move on to Anika Sarkar from the same team, that's team 35. Anika will be speaking against the motion. Anika Sarkar.
Am I audible and visible?
You are audible. Yes, you are visible too.
I'm audible and visible, right?
Right. Yes, you are, Anika.
I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the largest drawback of online schooling, that lack of physical application. Every student sitting here, is it the same actually dealing with chemicals and equipments in a chemistry lab and performing experiments yourself and learning yourself, as opposed to just seeing it on a virtual screen? It is definitely not the same. When we talk about online schooling as a way of moving forward, obviously it is a totally different debate for the rich and privileged, like all of us here. But if we want it to be the way forward, we also have to talk about or discuss the inclusivity of the system for the rest of the population. Let us look at the effect of online schooling on the literacy rate of the female child. Ever since online schooling began, 10 million girls in India have had to drop out of online schools. Do you really think that Indian families, considering that they generally do not even encourage their girls to go to school in the first place, will they really incur the cost and expenditure of availing an internet connection and purchasing a new device? Absolutely not. I'm very surprised that nobody here has mentioned the term digital divide. It is one of the largest drawbacks of having an online schooling system. Moving on, I will explain my next point with an anecdote. When we were actually going to schools and offices physically, there was a huge concern for people working in the IT department that they were only glaring at their screens and there was no physical movement, and it was having a huge impact on their health. For children, it is exactly the same right now. If it's a concern, if it is such a big concern for adults, isn't it a bigger concern for students? That is exactly why homeschooling is not considered as good, because there is that lack of physical interaction, that lack of acquiring social skills. Every student here has analyzed it from the perspective of other students. I would like to talk about it from the perspective of a teacher. Everybody sitting here, is it the same teaching a poem to a sea of faces as opposed to teaching it on a virtual screen? It's definitely not the same. Everybody misses the connection. And that is an important point, because learning is based on this. Teachers, it's not just a struggle students, it's also a struggle for teachers. It's difficult to adjust to this entirely new system of education. Moreover, I would also like to talk about the dilution of assessments. Pass percentages have risen to a huge extent. Do you really think it's because students have become academically more capable? It's because, and this is a sad truth, that they're availing or using unfair means. I would like to end by saying that online education is not the way forward. It is hybrid and blended learning that is, the things I've mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Anika. We'll now move on to team 36, and we have the speaker, Prajwal Chandak. Prajwal Chandak speaking for the motion.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible and clear?
Yes, you are.
Okay. The change is the end result of all true learning. A very ebullient morning to the respected judges, moderator, and my fellow competitors. I'm Prajwal, and I'll be speaking for the topic. So now let's begin by understanding the emphasis of risk management in the current world. Every country needs to have a good framework for risk management, which is basically a solution out of a crisis. Online schooling has proved that education can be imparted even in the worst of times. The COVID pandemic, the case in point, has disrupted the current schooling method and showcased its flaws. The COVID online schooling is a more futuristic approach. And the next time we have a great adversity like COVID-19, we'll not have to face a sudden paradigm shift in the field of education. Now, talking about the segregation of students in India, we all see people ending up scoring 90 to 95% in boards. I suggest a world wherein there is online schooling but offline exams. It helps in differentiating among the hardworking students and the lazy ones. It also helps the students in different jobs, as qualities such as perseverance and hard work are craved by companies in the people today. Now, the main advantage of asynchronous online learning is that it allows students to participate in high quality learning situations when distance and schedule make on ground learning is difficult to impossible. Students can participate in classes from anywhere in the world, whether you are in Paris, whether you're in Wellington, whether you are in Auckland, anywhere in the world you can attend these classes, provided they have a computer and a stable internet connection. In addition, the online format allows physically challenged students and teachers more freedom to participate in the different lectures and classes. It also helps students to attend different international vocational programs online, thus increasing their skills substantively. Now, the online classes also have a certain flexibility and accessibility. Students have continuous access to lectures, classes, course materials, and class discussions. This is particularly convenient for those who may need to reread a lecture or rewatch a class or take more time to reflect on some material before moving on. This allows the people or the students to actually learn on their own pace. Furthermore, today's students have access to resources and material that can be physically located anywhere in the world. They have a plethora of resources to refer to. Also, unlike the timings of offline school, the schedule of online schooling is much more flexible. Now to kind of wrap up my speech, I'd like to talk about like how the world is ever changing and evolving. Like, look how far we humans have come. There was a time where we didn't know, where we just discovered the wheel, and now we are just having a debate on an online platform, or the airplanes flying, and the transportation and technological fields have really advanced and evolved. And I feel that it's time for the education system to evolve as well. We have been following the offline education system for over 100 to 200 years. We had that Gurukul system in India, which evolved into the Western education system. And now it's time to evolve into the online education system or online schooling method. I'm not saying that the current online schooling method is the best, because if you see, it was just introduced 1.5 years ago. As the old offline system was perfected over time, I feel this online system can also be perfected over time. Its flaws can be removed and it can be perfect. I like to rest my case here. Proud to propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Prajwal, for sharing your thoughts. We'll now move on to our next competitor. It's Arav Mittal from Team 36 speaking against the motion. Arav Mittal.
So am I audible?
Yes, you are audible as well as visible.
Good morning to respected judges, my worthy opponents, and everyone else in the meeting. Today, I, Arav Mittal, am here to speak against the topic, online schooling is the way of the future. On a close examination of the topic, we'll find that the question at hand on discussion is that online school is not whether online schooling is a possible solution for the current pandemic, but whether online schooling is a good alternative or a good option in the future when everything goes back to normal. I agree to all the statements made by my worthy opponents, which says that online schooling is the only option or has helped us during this pandemic when we cannot go to the school or meet each other. But the question that I would like to ask them is that whether online schooling can prove to be a good method of learning when everything goes back to normal after a year when the pandemic ends. And the answer is a clear no. I firmly disagree to the fact that online schooling can prove to be helpful when everything goes back to the normal. And I would like to prove this by asking a simple question. What is the first school that we go to? The answer is a playgroup. What do we do out there? We go and interact with each other. We have fun with each other. We are taught art and craft and various other things. Now, is all that possible in an online meeting on a Zoom or a Google Meet platform? The answer is a clear no. So a system of education or a method of learning which does not allow us to take the first step towards our education, how can that prove to be an effective solution or an effective alternative in a time when everything goes back to normal? From a student's perspective, I would only like to say that the most attractive or the most fascinating part of my school life just goes blurred on the vision of having my schooling back from home. The fact that I can no longer go have my lunch with my friends, I cannot take part in any co-curricular activities just scares me. The feel of a classroom, the feel of being around my friends, learning and having fun together is simply beautiful and irreplaceable. The effects or ill effects of online learning, which includes lack of attention, lack of attendance, or ill effects of screen on our eyesight, on our mental health, and lack of motivation, adds on to the various piles of reasons making offline learning much more better than online schooling. At the end, I would only like to say that yes, change might be the only constant, and we all face changes in our day-to-day life, whether it be a change in the weather, a change in our schedule, and it is imperative for us to adapt to all of these changes. But there are a few things in our life which we don't like to be altered with, and an online school and offline learning is one of them. And who could understand this better than we students who are participating or you teachers who are judging us? With this, I would like to rest my case, but clearly not my cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Arav. Our next participant is Prince Prasad from Team 37 speaking for the motion. Prince Prasad, the floor is yours.
Necessity is the author of change. Once Jean Monnet stated that people go to changes only when they are surrounded by necessity, and they recognize necessity only when there is a crisis upon them. And lo, the coronavirus. A very good morning to the honorable judges, my fellow opponents. Today, I strongly believe in, and I'm speaking in favor of the motion that yes, online schooling is a way to future. Traditional learning concepts of attending classes have changed over the past few years. Now, it's not important to be in a classroom to attend the classes. With the changing times and technologies and the internet facilities, now we can have access to the quality education sitting in our houses. And now we are entering into a new era, the era of online education. With the online education, the students as well as the teachers can set their own learning pace, and it adds flexibility to their learning techniques. At the same time, the parents can guard to the activities of the students, and they can monitor the development of the students in online classes while being at home. Well, one of my worthy opponent named Swayamshri Mohanty stated that the government is not doing anything for facilitating the online education. Well, ma'am, this is for you. The state government of Uttar Pradesh is using rupees 3,000 crores to distribute around 1 crore tablets and laptops for the people, for the students who can continue their education in postgraduates, undergraduates, and the school. The Bengal government itself is spending rupees 10,000 for each and every student, around 9.5 lakh students, so that they can get quality education. Yes. Now, one of my worthy opponents stated, Astha Tejaswini Raj, she stated that internet access is not being available in rural areas. Ma'am, this is for you. Internet access under the BharatNet scheme has provided internet facilities in rural areas, and the CSE e-governance India Service Limited is providing and has got the task of providing optical fibers to home connectivity throughout the nation. Now, In online classes, each and every barrier where we used to think that how come music can be taught online, how can we do PT, how can we do yoga online, can all be set online. I like to end my debate by saying this: the very fact which ends the proposition is the fact that we are conducting an online debate, and that ends and shatters all the opponents that it is an online debate, and we are conducting this online debate because it is possible to conduct this. And hence, thank you. With this, I rest my case.
Thank you, Prince Prasad. I would now like to call Prithvijit Samanta to oppose the motion.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are.
Online schooling is the way of future. It may be one of the most controversial topics nowadays. I, Prithvijit Samanta, vehemently oppose this statement. A very warm welcome and good morning to all the respected dignitaries and my fellow contestants. Online learning is one of the most modern way of imparting education adopted by the schools, which we recently discovered in this COVID-19 pandemic. First of all, the main barrier to online education is the physical absence of the students and the teachers, which has drastically reduced the interactions and engagement between the students and the teachers. One of my contestants said that in offline classes, the students disturb the teacher. That is very common. But does this not happen in online classes? Yes, this definitely happens. Zoom bombings are now very common. This is further complicated by loud siblings, roommates, pets, neighbors, and children. There are also some real-life complications of students getting into arguments with their parents while their mic is still on, unaware of the fact that their entire class can hear them while they should be listening to a lecture instead. Of course, distractions also exist in traditional classes, but the overall school environment is still designed to allow for learning. My younger brother, who is now only 6 years old, does not even know what an interactive offline KG classroom is. Moreover, students also have a choice for turning off their video and audio and skip classes. One of my contestants said that YouTube can be a way of education, but what about the tempting recommendations of those YouTubers' videos which are dropped as a missile in the form of notifications? Traditional classes usually have a low risk for technical problems that interrupt the flow of the lesson. Garbled audio, microphones not working, and connections being lost in the middle of an online class are now commonplace distractions in online classes. In traditional classes, the enthusiasm, curiosity, and concentration of the students is 100% on the board and the teacher. The interaction of the students with the teachers is drastically reduced during an online class, as a result of which doubts remain as doubts, which ultimately results in lower grades in exams. Online learning also increases our screen time, which has a painful effect on the eyes and causes problems of headache and irritation in the eyes. To be honest, a 40-minute Zoom class, inclusive of the time for taking attendance, can never be replaced by a 1-hour class where all the eyes of the masses are on the boards and all the ears are given to the teachers. Cheating during an online exam is very prompting, but at the same time, very, very harmful for the students. Lastly, and most importantly, connections with my peers are severely limited online. Classmates are not able to discuss the doubts among themselves, resulting in a lack of self-confidence during job interviews in the future. Sharing thoughts, brooding over a single problem given by the teacher, that competition among the peers to find the answers of the so-called special questions given by the teacher in the class is purely an emotion. It paves way for self-education and thinking process in a broader spectrum. I know that online education is the only choice during this COVID-19 pandemic situation, but it can never replace traditional environment of teaching. Online schooling can never be the way of future. Lastly, I would like to say that online classes can be considered as a frosting on the cake, but it can never be the entire cake itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Prithvijit. Thank you. We now move on to the next team, that is team 38, and we have Purva Majumdar speaking for the motion. Purva Majumdar.
Ma'am, am I visible?
Yes, you are, Purva.
Good morning to one and all present over here. I am Pura Mujumdar and I'm going to present my views for the motion that online classes is the way of the future. Change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous in the end. The pandemic which struck us last year ushered in this new mode of learning called online classes through Zoom or Meet, which was there, but its process has entirely speeded up once this pandemic kicked in. We needed and found it imperative to find an alternative to the offline mode of classes. Now, I would like to begin by refuting a few points that my opponents have placed. Distraction is very easy in online classes. I agree. I completely agree. It's important, but it is there in offline classes too. People dozing off to sleep in the middle of a lecture, forgetting to take notes, cramming into their memories after the examination or during the examination, that is very common. It is just self-control and self-discipline that will help you in the end. So distraction is not a reason to discard online classes altogether. Secondly, when we talk of the disparity between the lower section of the society and the more privileged section of the society, I feel that online classes will facilitate the less privileged section of the society in their endeavor to education, because if we have access to a stable internet connection and a device which lets us access the meeting or the classes or YouTube, people can learn from it. It is not restricted to a particular time period. If we visit rural areas, we'll find many schools have only a single teacher, any one teacher present at some point of the day. That is not the scenario in the cities. So we fail to realize that online classes will actually facilitate these students who are eager to learn and who can contribute significantly to the economy of our country. Secondly, online classes support optimization of resources. It supports the utilization of both the teacher as well as the students' time. If I don't understand a part of a recorded lecture, I can go through it over and over again. If I find it easy to understand a specific part, I can just skim over it or go through it at double speed. It actually helps me to understand the parts I have difficulty in. While offline classes requires you to travel, online classes actually facilitate this fact. So I would like to end by saying that change is inevitable. You can either resist it and potentially get run over by it, or you can choose to cooperate with it. You can adapt to the online classes, learn how to benefit from it. When you embrace online classes, you will begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. In the opposition, we have Shaunak Biswas from the same team, Team 38. Shaunak Biswas.
Ma'am, am I visible as well as audible?
Yes, you are.
May I begin?
Yes, please.
Kurt Lewis rightly said, learning is more effective when it is active rather than a passive process. Good morning, my esteemed judges. I am Shaunak Biswas and I am here to speak against the motion, online schooling is the way of the future. Recent surveys show that 40% of the world's population has no access to the internet. Online education gives an unfair advantage to the privileged class of society who have access to better gadgets and stronger connectivity, while the same cannot be said of people living in economically weak sections of the society as well as rural regions. This further widens the social gap that already exists in the education system. Secondly, humans are social beings. Schools do not serve the sole purpose of imparting education. They also prepare us to become functioning members of society. And an isolated form of education, as online learning is, we become void of social interaction, which becomes a hindrance in our development as a social being. We can all agree that quality of online classes aren't the same as that imparted in physical classrooms. A teacher cannot ensure that a topic is understood by each and every student in online classes, as only a few turn on their microphones to respond. One-on-one sessions of students and teachers are again impossible. which means it's harder for students to clear their queries and gain a better understanding of the subject. Classrooms are a perfect environment for learning, but the same cannot be said for all homes. Students are made solely responsible for their own education in the online mode, which is more freedom than we can honestly handle. And we often become distracted during the classes and are unable to grasp it in its entirety. Online classes should be seen as what they are, a contingency plan that we quickly came up with during the pandemic to continue with education of all students. So as we can all agree that as soon as government guidelines allow us to reopen schools, we are flocking back to the traditional mode of education. This allows me to conclude that online education is far more inferior than its counterpart and is not the way of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaunak. Our next team is team 39, and we have Riddhima Radhakrishna speaking for the proposition. Riddhima Radhakrishna.
Hello, ma'am. So am I audible and visible?
You are audible as well as visible.
Okay. So the new normal, becoming the most bittersweet phrase since the beginning of the global pandemic, coronavirus, has had several impacts on us, especially as students, the main one being the introduction of online learning. It is true that as humans, we are more amenable to in-person interactions, be it learning at school or working on a job. But as said by the distinguished Arnold Bennett, any change, even a change for the better, is always accompanied by drawbacks and discomforts. Let's try to think from a fresh perspective here. Is it really worth spending thousands on a flight to fly off to a university campus when students, especially ones with financial problems, can learn everything from the comfort of their own home in a cost-effective way? So my predecessors who have already spoken for the motion have given several logical reasons as to why online classes are more budget friendly and practical. So I'll not bore you and dwell into it again, but I hope that they got everyone in the room thinking about it. So the borderless nature of the internet is one of the greatest benefits of online classes. Through an online course, one can meet people literally on the opposite side of the globe. I mean, how exciting is that? Each interaction offers more opportunities for depth and growth as one explores their education, gains new skills, connects with people all over the world, and bridges the gap of communication between classmates and instructors. Online classes teach us vital time management skills, which makes finding a good work-study balance much easier. While I agree that many people think there are a number of students who slack off in between online classes by simply giving incoherent excuses about internet issues or keeping the videos off. But let's not forget that online classes are the best way for these students to grow up and take responsibilities for their own actions, to start being independent, do their own work, do their own bit, and work on their future, and reach out to their teachers and friends to ask for help instead of being spoon-fed, unlike offline classes. It not only forces them to become mature and take their future seriously, but also makes them realize that they are the writers of their own destiny, their own story, and to achieve a bright future, they are the ones who need to start taking responsibility of their own lives. Their conscience will eventually start triggering them, and they will be forced to understand that by cheating in online exams, they will be cheating on themselves and questioning their own abilities. They will grow up, and the beautiful part is they will do so without anyone's help and learn how to be accountable for their own actions. So to sum it up, online classes are flexible, budget friendly, allows a customized learning experience, reduces the cost of traveling for offline classes, inculcates self-discipline, accountability, and communication skills, which is why it would be the perfect mode of learning for future generation. Let's start being optimistic, utilize online learning to our advantage, and do our best to enhance personal growth in the current times instead of whining about not being able to go to school and using this as an excuse to avoid accountability, procrastinating, or bunking classes. So if someone thinks that they lack concentration and they need to be supervised constantly, I hope they take it as a sign or a wake-up call to start working on themselves and grow up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Riddhima. We'll now have Ruchika Bhushingha from the same team, Team 39, speaking against the motion. Ruchika.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Ruchika. You may start.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ruchika Bhausinka, and I'm going to speak against the motion. From seminars to webinars, normal classrooms to virtual classrooms, and eventually from the traditional way of learning to online education. The way of learning has gone through drastic changes. Globally, over 1.2 billion children in 186 countries have been affected by school closures. The main purpose of a school is to provide structure, support, and a system of rewards and penalties to groom its students. In an offline classroom, a student is provided with the opportunity to actively interact with teachers as well as their peers. Yes, online education does save time, but at what cost? How can we expect millions of students across the globe to sit in front of a screen the whole day just to get access to education? Online education is not always efficient. It is harder for students to grasp concepts that are being taught for subjects, especially that require practical approach, such as physics or even physical education for that matter. My next point is about the inconsistency of online education. In India, where the gaps in access to education and the internet were already vast, poor families are struggling even more. We are lucky enough to have a workable device right now and a stable connection, but education is supposed to be for each and every student belonging to every part of society. The quality of educations the students have received during the crisis has been uneven since only 12.5% of households of students in India have internet access at home. Wealthier parents can afford to stay at home. They are better able to support their children, have enough laptops, steady Wi-Fi, and can live in homes where there is enough amount of personal space. Unfortunately, financially unstable families cannot afford to do that. I would like to add many speakers not being able to share their opinions due to connectivity problems, which shows that technical issues are bound to happen in an online-only environment. I would like to conclude by saying that education is not just about learning up information. It is about applying that information in our daily lives. And how are we supposed to do that if we stare at our screens all day? Online education was a preventive measure and not a long-term solution that was taken due to the pandemic, which is why it cannot be the future of education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruchika. Our next contestant is from Team 40, speaking for the proposition, Sanjana Chatterjee.
Respected organizers, I wanted to inform you that I couldn't rename myself because I wasn't enabled to.
You are Sanjana Chatterjee?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. You may start.
In the words of Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. So are the four-walled cage-like confines that Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore was known to dread, can they cater to the rapidly changing diverse needs of our digital generation? Good morning, one and all. I would like to speak for the proposition. Every child has a mode of learning which they prefer and through which they best absorb information. There are some children who are auditory learners while others thrive on visual learning. There are some children who are solo learners and get distracted by large groups. And the widely available resources that online education provides allows this mode of learning to be tweaked to suit various children. For example, videos, PDFs, audios, and podcasts, these all cater to different types of children. Moreover, teachers can go beyond textbooks and impart an education that is overall much more holistic. They can drill down into their topics in a way that was not possible earlier. Moreover, this paperless form of education is beneficial to the environment. Online education eliminates the geographical barrier that was inevitable in traditional form of learning. Children can attend classes from anywhere, and this greatly improves the likelihood that they'll attend their classes and boost their attendance. Moreover, the financial cost of transportation and student meals for children is entirely the online education much more affordable form of learning if you compare it to the classroom. Online education also reduces the academic pressure off of children. Children now get time to themselves and can focus on their hobbies and develop self-interest like they never could before. Online education allows for children to get one-to-one attention in a way that traditional classrooms could not offer. Take, for example, school classrooms, which have a population of about 40 to 50 students. College classrooms have even a size of 100 students or more, where individual attention is just not feasible. However, online education through facilities like personal messaging have allowed this to be possible. Moreover, this individual attention from teachers boosts student performance. The internet is an immensely powerful resource, and it provides information that is freely available, that is far beyond the scope of any school library. It instills in children an insatiable appetite for learning. And these are the children who prefer to surf the internet rather than leaf through pages of books. Thus, I believe, and I stand with Charles Darwin's thoughts on the survival of the fittest. I believe that these thoughts still stand true today, that it is imperative and essential for children, and especially the youth, to adapt and to develop technological skills. Online education has become the new normal. It has been forced to become so as a result of the new normal, which is the COVID-19 pandemic, which was once a choice has now become a necessity. Thus, I implore you all to look beyond the two-dimensional pages of your textbooks and to look around and to embrace the digital revolution that we are heading into. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjana. We'll now request Harshita Upadhyay from the same team, Team 40, to take the floor. Harshita Upadhyay.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are, Harshita.
A very good morning to one and all present here. I, Harshita Upadhyay, shall be presenting my views against the proposition. Absolutely not. Online schooling is definitely not the way of the future. Virtual schooling may seem to have an unlimited number of benefits because it supposedly enables a student to reach greater heights. But what is the point of excelling in online education when the child's own body begins to reject it? What is the point of online education when 50% of Indian students living in both urban and rural areas do not have access to internet for online classes? Only 28% of rural household children have internet access at home. If each household has more than one school-going child, it's obvious that they need more than one device. It is an economic burden for the poorer sections of society to afford luxuries like mobile phones and internet. Children of daily wage workers whose only chance to go to physical schools, to get education, to change their family situation, all of that is lost when it comes to online learning. Poor children would even go to school only for the purpose of getting a midday meal because they do not get proper food at home. Have we ever thought from the perspective of hundreds and thousands of children spending minimum 6 to 7 hours glued to their electronic devices 7 days a week? A survey conducted by Springdale College chain of schools found that 55% of students from 4th to 12th grade experienced health issues such as insomnia, eyesight problems, backache, fatigue, irritability, and severe headaches. And I can personally vouch for this. I too get terrible headaches and extremely tired after a day of online classes. Lack of physical activity has resulted in problems such as obesity in children as well. My aunt, who's a teacher, she also complains of distractions and eye-related issues when it comes to checking papers all day long and conducting online classes. From an education point of view, online learning takes away valuable resources such as lab facilities and studios, which are essential for science subjects, music classes, filmmaking classes, and more. These labs cannot be recreated at home. Physical school allows children to form interpersonal relationships with their peers, forms friendship for life. They go on field trips, they observe real-life applications of the field of study. It inculcates social skills in children and provides an all-round physical and mental development. Spontaneous opinions are necessary to present the full scope of a subject. But on an online platform, teacher can only interact with one student at a time. Plus, it's quite distracting. When social media apps are just one click away, most students stop paying attention in class and mindlessly scroll through the latest, most useless posts. There's poor attendance as well due to network issues and lack of motivation, forming excuses and whatnot. I see my classmates excusing themselves from online classes due to power cuts on a sunny day. Meritorious students suffer as well because they do not get appreciated for their hard work when everyone suddenly starts scoring highly in examinations. Sports classes are also a good source of refreshment for the students, and it helps to maintain their physical and mental health, and something we cannot find in online classes. I am sure we all, teachers and students, dream of returning back to physical classes and school. And that is for a reason. If online classes are the future, then I'd say the future is doomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshita. Now we move on to our next participant, Sania Sharma, speaking for the motion. From Team 41, Sanya Sharma.
Traditional schooling has changed radically over the last couple of years due to the coronavirus pandemic that struck us. Now, good morning, everyone. I am Sanya Sharma, and today I'm here to speak for the motion that online schooling is the way of the future. Distance and location is no longer a hindrance because students from everywhere in the world can learn as well as understand what is happening in online media as long as they have a device and a connectivity. Well, in 2021, everyone has a device and connectivity because we all teenagers are dying for internet. Online classes offers a wide range of programs. Online tutoring websites, which we are accustomed to, for example, Whitehead Junior, Byju's, Merit Nation, have helped us a lot to gain confidence over a lot of subjects. We must not forget that the beauty of online schooling is that it is more affordable and cheap. A lot of parents and students have saved a lot when during online classes because there was no transportation cost and fuel cost. Today's online learning is better than yesterday's online learning, and tomorrow will be better than today. This is because of the immediate updates in technology, and students and teachers are effectively managing their time and increasing their retention power. Teachers as well are becoming a bit technologically advanced thanks to online classes. I would like to say that a lot of people are saying that students are not able to interact in online classes. Well, I am opposition to this because I think that in online classes, it is not crowded. By the word crowded, I mean that sometimes people might have trouble in learning when the surrounding is their peers who are excelling. I think that online classes is better because it helps with anxiety. And if any embarrassing situation happens in online media or in Zoom classes, people tend to forget it, but not forget if anything happens in traditional schooling. Was that the bell?
No, you may carry on, Sanya.
Okay. So as I was saying, that students find it easy to interact in online mode of learning because they are becoming a bit close to teacher thanks to one-on-one teaching.
You may conclude your speech, Sanya. That was a bit.
In conclusion, I would like to say that some members of the opposition said that cheating is that online classes is a source of cheating. Well, cheating requires skills, whether it is online or offline. And I don't think having a good mindset of not cheating will lead us to cheating. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again, Sanya. I would now request Punya Devansh from Team 41.
Mr. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Punya.
Good afternoon, judges. I am Punya Devyansh, and I'll be speaking against the motion that online studying is the way of future. Well, I don't want the future. Well, I have to get up 5 minutes before my online class, still in my PJs, put on the school uniform, sit in front of the camera, and unmute myself just to say present, miss. Because in online education, attendance is far more important than studies, from what I have learned in the previous 2 years. Now, I totally believe that online education is a very convenient investment, but the most disastrous one. Because in online education, nobody hears you screaming internally. Because the constant thought that a computer will be your studying partner is terrifying. There's no sound going on at the back of the class. There's no footsteps in the corridor. And there's no smell of ammonia gas to disturb you from the chemistry lab. And at the same time, there's no commanding and guiding force present in front of you to help you out of your shortcomings, the places where you lag, giving you full freedom and liberty to do whatever you want, which crumbles the discipline in an online class. Online education has changed the way education was perceived before and the way it is perceived now. because all education does not only refer to getting an A+ or 99 out of 100 in exams, but it also refers to an overall development of a child, a mental growth, a holistic overall growth, the way he approaches problems, the way he deals under pressure. Because in future, a company will judge me on these skills instead of asking me the same line that I have repeatedly mugged up and learned in my online classes, that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. At the same time, online classes cannot give us the live interaction and the feel that we have in offline classes. At the same time, it can never give you the time of elaborate sessions. Before, the teachers used to dismiss, was not the school bells who used to dismiss us, but it was the teachers. But nowadays, it's the Zoom time limit that dismisses us. Once the session ends, our study ends. Not to mention, data is really important for students. That is why we believe in a passive way of studying instead of an active way, with our cameras, videos shut off and our mics muted. We scroll through Instagram feed and YouTube, and in social media serves as the best way of distraction while in an online class. At the same time, it helps us to procrastinate a lot. The PDFs the teachers sent us and the screenshots of the notes that we took from our friends, it's still saved in my gallery, and I hope it comes to life someday. Because online education has just shifted education to a mere collection of data with notions, feelings, and everything being sidelined. At the same time, I'd like to quote one line from the famous novel of Charles Dickens, Hard Times, where he says that what I want is facts. I want all boys and all girls to learn nothing but facts. But I say that the real meaning of education is what is termed by Albert Einstein, and that is, education is what you remember after you have forgotten everything you have learned in your classroom. With that, I conclude my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Punya. Our next contestant is Shyam Majumdar, speaking for the motion from Team 42. Shyam Majumdar.
Am I visible and audible enough?
Yes, you are. You may start.
Greetings and salutations to all. I am Shyam Majumdar, and I'm here to explicitly cast my views for the motion. You know, online education is such a different experience from classic traditional learning mode. But then why are we even considering that? Why are even people questioning that shifting to the online mode of education? Education is important, but it cannot be more important than human life. Online education has proven time and again that it is an excellent mode of learning while learning at your own comfort zone, at the same moment staying safe. In the words of Donna J. Anarabati, online education is not the next big thing, it is now the big thing. We all know that how physical classes can be monotonous and how we can get bored time and again. But then in online classes, the teachers can present so many interactive videos, animations, and the students can engage themselves in learning. But in case of a physical classroom, it can be too expensive for a teacher to avail those things as well. You know, according to a research conducted by American Institute of Research, that the retention rate in online learning is 60 to 85%, whereas in case of traditional learning, it is nearly around 8 to 10%. You can see the huge difference there, right? You know, if the teacher is teaching and if you are unable to retain what the teacher is teaching, there is no point in learning, right? And with the coming advent of the new generation, so many people, so many students, they want to work from their home. They want to do part-time job. But then in India, it is nearly impossible. We can't do that because of our hectic schedule. But if the online schedule is bought in our system, then so many students can participate in doing part-time jobs and can help their family as well. You know, before the pandemic, there was the climate change issue. But then the online education system, it is proven that it consumes 90% less energy as compared to the offline education system. So I think that is a great way to heal our world as well. Now we are facing the COVID pandemic. Who knows, there might be another pandemic as well. If we are not shifting ourselves, if we are not modifying ourselves now, then what will we do now then when the next thing comes, right? We have to equip ourselves when new things are coming in. In the words of Bernard Bull, in order to create an engaging learning environment, the role of teacher is not important. but the role of learner is essential. That I would like to address few things as told by my worthy opponents is that teachers have to request the students to keep quiet and all. But then I hope that if we all are very much equipped with the technology, if the teacher wants a student to keep quiet, then they can simply mute that student, right? And then if the students are well equipped with the technology, it will help them in the new upcoming job arena as well. Now, so many things are going with technology, and if they're well equipped with the computer, they are at par and they are doing better than other students as well in the IT sector as well. With that, I would like to raise my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Shyam. I would now like to invite Nishar Ahmed to speak against the motion. Team 42, Nishar Ahmed.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Good morning, one and all present here. Today, I, Nishar Ahmed, would like to speak against the proposition. Firstly, I would like to start with a quotation. Change is difficult at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. I guess if the COVID pandemic wouldn't have struck us, we wouldn't have given much emphasis to online classes, and perhaps we wouldn't have been, the topic of discussion for today's debate competition wouldn't have been the advantages and disadvantages of online education. Of course, there are two sides of a coin. The same thing applies to online education. There are several advantages and there are several disadvantages as well. So with the advent of internet and things shifting online, there are greater risks of cyber security, server crashes, which is a drawback considering the online classes. Due to global warming and unprecedented precipitation, we tend to suffer from network disruption since rain prevents the transmission of radio waves. A survey conducted in June 2020, 25% of the student education that was provided online as compared to that of physical education. 95% countries where the per capita income is more, considering the middle income countries and low income countries, the students have a personal laptop of theirs. But in low income countries and middle income countries, they don't have a personal laptop, which can be used for doing online classes, researching things. And nowadays, cheating has become so prevalent during examination, which is a major issue. And hence, I would like to suggest few solutions while exams are being conducted. Suppose we tend to use WhatsApp to transmit our answers, to send our answers to our friends. We create WhatsApp groups. And this is a major disadvantage. Anyone clicks the photos and then suddenly they use WhatsApp to send it to their friends. So if Facebook and WhatsApp proposes the idea that a code be used by the schools so that the WhatsApp may be locked during the time of examination, and once the exam is over, they may open it. And lastly, I would like to conclude by telling that our end goal is to acquire knowledge, be it online or offline. Hence, using the knowledge we acquire is very important. Hence, I would like to conclude by quoting a statement that if you do not apply what you already know, there is no point knowing what you do not know. Thank you.
Thank you, Nishar. Our next contestant is Shreyanshi Sikaria from Team 43, speaking for the motion. Shreyanshi Sikaria.
Ma'am, am I visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
We have grown up listening to the sayings that education should not be restricted to the four walls of the classroom and that the world is a small place. We see that being true now. The level of practicality that the online platform presents before us lands us 1,000 miles away from restrictions. The world now seems like a connected place where we have access to everything. Good afternoon, everyone. Now I would be dwelling upon into deeper motions, uncovering some uncommon reasons. My first constructive is educational equity. What is equity in today's world? Equity is the need of our society. It recognizes that each person has different circumstances and provides them that extra support and opportunity needed to bring them to an equal footing. Online education promotes educational equity. It promotes dreaming. It promotes the idea that no one will be barred from the basic amenity of education just because they are sitting in a remote village. It will bring them at par with people sitting in modern cities with better facilities. It is not possible to quantify the value of equity, which has for a long time been missing from the traditional schooling due to economic and social disparity. The agile nature of online education is my second constructive. Did we think of the jobs which exist now 10 years back? Can we think of the jobs which will exist 10 years from now? The answer is a bold no. The problem with traditional education is that it does not promote the line of thought for such things. It limits ideas, thoughts, and dreams. An agile learning system, that is online education, empowers to keep in touch with the whole world, individualizes educational needs of all students, makes new and relevant content not just accessible, but simultaneously adaptable with the changes in knowledge, ideas, and technologies. It brings us above the skill gap existing in the world. For example, most companies around the world complain that graduates coming from even the best universities, Ivy Leagues, and IITs are not ready for workforce. That again reflects an old centralized curriculum unable to keep up with the evolution in the workspace. We can really level the playing field that way. My third constructive is shift from teacher-oriented system to student-centered environment. The clear highlight of online education is that it gives the students the exposure of a student-centered environment instead of a teacher-oriented one. The format of online education helps to develop an open-ended synergy amongst the students, greatly increasing dynamic form of learning. Learning should not and must not stop. Every once in a while, there has been a crisis, be it humanitarian or political, which has in the past put a halt to our learning and hampered our education, be it the COVID-19 or the CAA or even the farmers' protest. Online schooling can ensure that our learning will not stop. It is a sustainable system. Come rain or come shine, your education will always be secure. Therefore, due to the changing times and adapting to the circumstances, I firmly believe that not going online isn't even an option anymore. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Shreyanshi, for sharing your thoughts. I would now like to welcome Videhi More from Team 43 speaking against the motion. Videhi More, the floor is yours.
Audible and visible?
I don't get to see you.
Ma'am, can you see me now?
Yes, yes, you are audible as well as visible.
Yes, ma'am. Can I start?
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by summarizing online schooling in a layman's term. It stands for anytime, anywhere, any place, but not for everyone. Not for 88% of student population in India, not for 300 million students in Africa, and not for half of the students across the world. I would like to remind the House that this debate does not just concern me or you and the rest of the privileged sections of our society. We will survive regardless of the forum of education. But this debate is more important to the millions or almost billions of individuals who belong to the economically backward section. Apart from this mode of education is also incompetent and incomprehensible for people with special physical and mental abilities. The special schools for mentally disabled majorly focuses on physical education, which for obvious reason is not possible to incorporate in online classes. It is non-inclusive for people with complete vision and hearing impairments, and a lot of mental disorders, including ADHD, ADD, and autism. Moving on, yes, I agree that these classes come at a slightly lower monetary cost, but more importantly, it has a much higher price to pay in terms of our health. The exposure to screen for a long time at a young age can cause sleep disorders, behavioral problems, lifelong vision problems, and even affect our mental health gravely. We must also not forget that due to personal reasons, a lot of parents opt for boarding schools. But if the form of education shifts online, the entire concept of boarding schools gets lost. Additionally, those subjects which have an experimental or practical basis, such as biochemistry, physical therapy, nursing, and so on, cannot be taught to a person through screens. I would also like to draw your attention to something which has been fairly missing from our discussion, which is man is a social being. For one to survive and in fact thrive in the real world, we need a set of very important social cues. Even side proposition could not come up and argue out here that these characteristics can be promoted in online mode, because that would simply be a lie. Online mode teaches us to compete, but misses out on a more important aspect, and that is to collaborate. Collaboration is a skill that can only Ladies and gentlemen, must not forget that every child has the right to education as promised to them under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Millions of children would not even get a chance to choose to educate themselves if the mode of education is shifted to the online forum. Thus, due to its non-inclusive and non-feasible nature, online schooling can never, should never, and will never be the way to the future.
Thank you, Videhi. Before moving on to Team 44, I would like Sargam Banerjee from Team 29 to speak against the motion. He had some internet connectivity issues, but he's with us in this debating session, and I would like to call upon Sargam Banerjee from Team 29 speaking against the motion. Judges kindly note. We are waiting for Sargam Banerjee to take the floor. I guess you're there in the meeting. Are you connected to the audio? Hi. Sargam Banerjee? Please place your camera in the right manner so that we can see you. Sargam, we are unable to see you. Yes,
hello.
Yes,
Can I be here? Okay. Yeah.
Please focus your camera on yourself.
Can I speak?
Yes. You are audible, Sargam. Please keep your camera in the correct position.
Hello, ma'am. Can I start?
You are audible, Sargam.
Okay.
Please start.
My name is Sargam Banerjee, and I'm going to start about against the topic. Online schooling is the way of future. By education, I mean an all-round drawing of the best in child and man is body, mind, and spirit, as quoted by Mahatma Gandhi. Can you answer whether an all-round development of a child carried out or not in this new normal? Probably no. Now, good evening, good afternoon to all my fellow debaters, my judges, and other moderators.
Continue, Sargam.
Online student feedback is limited in online classes. Through online classes, the students cannot, the teachers can't get the proper feedback from students, and teachers can give their students face-to-face feedback in traditional classrooms. Students who face a problem in the course can solve the problems during dedicated offline hours, but that were not possible in online classes. Practical classes which were done to our schools, these were impossible in offline because students have always problems due to their network problems and all. I will like to give my example that I couldn't join today's class as we are having some network problems, connectivity problems, and if this is offline, then we could not have this kinds of problems. So in this following reasons, social isolation from more online learning makes online classes not effective, and lack of flexibility is there. And students currently participating in online learning have to go through a lack of contemplation and participation. In this way, students and teachers who spend more and more time online can start experiencing social isolation due to lack of human communication in their life. In this way, social isolation leads to mental health issues and elevated stress, anxiety, and negative thinking. There is no face-to-face communication in online learning that makes online classes less effective. There is a lack of input from the trainers, makes online classes less effective. There is a lack of face-to-face, like classes at Zoom or Google Meet. Lack of communication is face-to-face with the instructors disrupt students' response. That causes social isolation and reduces pressure. Students not direct pressure is a kind of loss, and it causes students to leave their studies quickly. There is a lack of input from the trainers. Like whenever developing a syllabus, it is based on whether those who are preparing a syllabus consider the syllabus right. Apart from this, the learning material can also be outdated, and there may be mistakes from them. There is a lack of input from the trainers. Like whenever developing our syllabus, it is based on whether those who prepare the syllabus consider the syllabus right. Apart from this, the learning material can be outdated, and there may be mistakes from the beginning. A skilled instructor and subject matter expert are in right touch with his students. A good instructor sits and interacts with people. Good coaches with finding out what do students need to know and what they want to learn. Student feedback is highly valued, but it is not much possible with online learning. The newborn students, like the pre-primary students who are doing classes during this pandemic situations, they could not concentrate, or they were just let in front of a virtual medium, and that's a very much disadvantage for their studies. Like they could not communicate with their friends. They're only restricted in front of virtual mediums. So this kind of educational matters were always there. So developing good and effective learning courses require time, money, and great expertise. Good online
Sargam,
learning.
you need to wind up now. Sargam, your time is over. You need to wind up now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. That was Sargam from team 29. We'll now move on to Srijani Sinha from team 44 speaking for the motion. Srijani Sinha.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, ma'am. Rabindranath Tagore once said, "Don't limit a child to your own learning, for he was born in another time." A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I am Srijani Sinha, and today I am going to grab this wonderful opportunity to express my views in favor of the motion. Education is something that is believed to shape an individual's life for the better. Over the course of time, education has seen tremendous changes, but the children all over the world in the years 2019 to 20 and 20 to 21 have seen more changes in this field than anyone, owing to the ever-rising COVID-19 issue. The mode of education has transitioned from sitting in our school desks and tuitions for hours to attending online classes at the comfort and warmth of our own houses. Now, although this mode deprives the student from being physically present in their own schools, but there are plenty of applications that create a school-like environment and helps provide a better quality of knowledge and education. This mode helps clear concepts and saves plenty of time, and this time can be used for self-study. Now, in a world that is as competitive as ours, I believe that there is nothing as precious as time, and we should always find our time to save more time. So previously, if we see in our in-person or physical school, the teachers were so overburdened with their work, they were often unable to go to every student because they were teaching hundreds and thousands of students. So it was clearly not possible for them to go to everyone and ask for their doubts, although they tried their best. But now with technological advancements, we have platforms which give us the opportunity to have one-to-one interactions with our teachers, which serves both the parties for the better. The students can get their doubts cleared more efficiently by the teachers, whereas the teachers can review the performance of the students in a better way. This mode is very flexible as this enables the teachers and the students to coordinate with each other very efficiently, and this enables the teachers to make a lesson plan or an agenda in accordance to the performance and the pace of all of the students so no one gets missed out. Now, this mode of education is often looked down upon by plenty of students and the teachers. But I have a question that I have to ask because everyone was speaking about how distracting this is. Do you all not know a student who used to sit in your class and look at the wall like they have never seen a wall before? So, be it the wall of your classroom or the Facebook wall, if there is someone who wants to be distracted, they'll find a way to do so even when they're placed in a void. We are the tech savvy generation and we should not step back from it. We have ample of knowledge and education and we are provided with the best to create more and more scientific advancements and we should continue to do so. So if there is a mode that enables us to obtain education, sit in our houses with our comfort, interact with our friends, maintain relations with our teachers, and all of this are done while we are saving so much time, then why should we not avail this? I would like to conclude my speech by saying that I strongly stand by today's motion for the debate, and I believe that online classes, if used sincerely, can be a very good way of paving our future for the better and will help us to achieve success. Thank you very much for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you, Srijani. We move on to Saptak Das now, speaking against the motion. Saptak Das, 1544.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Saptak, you're audible. Yes, Saptak, you're visible too.
Online schooling. Now, the first question that arises in our mind is, what is online schooling? In very simple words, online schooling is a way in which the school as well as the student depends on technology and internet to get the schooling done. Good morning, everybody. Myself, Saptak Das, and I will be speaking against the motion that online schooling is the way for future. From past several months, we all have been going to a new mode of schooling named online schooling. Though this sounds a bit advanced and some might think it's the way of future, but it's not so in practical. Let us analyze it a bit, keeping in mind the realistic facts that every student and every teacher has to face in online classes. First and foremost, online classes take much more time than on-campus classes. Yes, you heard it right, and I will explain why. Though the online classes curtail down the transportation time, but due to the large number of students present in majority of the schools, they fail to conduct online speaking interactive classes and opt for texting as the only way for the students to reach out the teachers. And as we all know that typing in a keyboard is much more time-taking than speaking. Keeping this point aside, before moving ahead, I need to remind once more that throughout this discussion, we need to keep in mind the realistic approach of an Indian school student towards online classes. Coming to the second point, online schooling creates a sensation of isolation. There is no concept of classmate in an online school. This might sound like a simple issue, but let me tell you, if we dig a deep inside this isolation matter, we will find that it is a major problem because it changes the entire environment of the school provided to a student. In an online school, the only thing that a student needs to do is to sit in front of his computer, gaze at the screen for long hours, and this might make him feel or make her feel isolated or uncomfortable. Thirdly, online schooling gives freedom to students, perhaps much more than what he or she can handle. Believe it or not, but if a student is going through online schooling, he or she becomes extremely free. In an online school, in an on-campus school, the school not only provides us teachers, but the teacher also works as an instructor, as a mentor, and as a guide too. But in online schooling, unfortunately, we only get a teacher in front of us, whereas the other three characteristics get suppressed due to lack of one-to-one communications. Students get easily distracted in online schooling because every social media, games, and all other distracting platforms are just a swipe away on the same device on which we are conducting our online classes. And moreover, in online schooling, there is no one to bring you back on the right track because no one is monitoring you right from the school. Thus, we can conclude by saying that to gain knowledge from online schooling, one needs to put much more effort as compared to an on-campus schooling. Though the amount of educational knowledge from an online schooling can be same as that of an offline schooling, but there are many other aspects such as socialism, such as friendliness, such as behavior, such as personal mentorship, such as guidance, which can't be afforded in an online school. Thus, I stand by my statement that online school can never be the future of education. That's all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Saptak. Our next participant speaking in favor of the motion is Swaralipi Chatterjee from Team 45. Swaralipi Chatterjee.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, Swaralipi.
Good afternoon to the principal, teachers, and all my fellow debaters. I am Swaralipi Chatterjee, and I'll be speaking for the motion. The concept of online education has changed, or the concept of traditional education has changed radically within the last couple of years. Being physically present in a classroom isn't the only learning option anymore, not with the rise of the internet and new technologies at least. Nowadays, you have access to quality education whenever and wherever you want, as long as you can get online. Nowadays, you have access to quality education as long as you can get online. We are now entering a new era, the revolution of online education. It is often more convenient because you don't have to sacrifice a large chunk of your day to commute or be stuck in the traffic to attend your classes. Online learning means that you can attend classes by the cozy environment of your own home. Online education is absolutely about accessibility and inclusivity. Many students are put off by expensive full-time campus-based courses, while for others, studying full-time clashes with their responsibilities, like raising a young family. Online classes tend to be smaller than conventional class sizes. Most of the time, online learning platforms only allow one student at a time, and in almost all cases, this allows for greater interaction and more feedback between you and your tutor. It is more cost-effective than traditional education. Once, Swami Vivekananda had said this in a letter to the Maharaj of Mysore, to be quoted, the one thing that is at the root of all evils in India is the condition of the poor. The only service to be done for them is to give them education and develop their lost individuality. Now, coming back to my point, unlike in-person education, online education tends to be more affordable. There's also often a wide range of payment options that let you pay in installments or per class. This allows for better budget management. These are only a few reasons to choose an online education and why 90% of students today think that online learning is same or better than the traditional classroom experience. Every student must assess their unique situation and decide according to their needs and goals. And while this alternative to traditional education is not for everyone, it's still a convenient option with virtually endless options for international students all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Swaralipi. We now move on to Pravisha Chakraborty speaking against the motion. Pravisha Chakraborty.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Learning is more effective when it is active rather than a passive process. Good afternoon, everyone present in this event. And today I'm going to speak against the topic that online schooling is the way of the future. Now, today I'm going to take upon certain points why I'm going to speak against the topic. First one I'll go with is it does not enhances one's brain. When we are going through online classes, the teacher or the instructor, whenever he or she asks a question, everybody is behind the camera and no one dares to switch on the camera. They only switch on the speaker and they start speaking. Does it show that they are speaking with their own knowledge? Never. The book they are reading through is that all. Second, I will go through is online classes makes it easier to procrastinate. Online classes has become the most evident way to procrastinate. Students, when they were present in offline classes, they were made to sit among the many others, girls and boys, and whenever they did not do any work, they were told by the instructor or the teacher, which put them into an embarrassment situation, which led them to complete their own courses. But now majority of the class does not complete their own work, so there is no point of embarrassment over there. Only half of it majority completes. Thirdly, I'll go with online courses. It does not require a good time management skills. It just 2 minutes time and you just get into your classes. But in offline classes, you do require. It's just this time that we are going through online classes. What is the advantage of it? Nothing. We'll grow big. We have interviews coming up. Then we need to maintain our time, where it is mostly important. Time in life never gets back. Second, online classes, it creates a sense of isolation. We have heard in our previous classes that certain animals go into hibernation due to the change in weather, but now majority of us go into hibernation. Lastly, I'll just put on the point that online classes gives freedom to people. Yes, they do give freedom to people, that they can go through YouTube and other social actives account, but too much freedom is also not able to handle by certain people. So thereby, thank you so much, and I rest my case over here.
Thank you, Pravisha. Thank you, Pravisha. We'll now move on to our next competitor, Titli Ghosh from Team 46, in favor of the motion. Titli Ghosh.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good afternoon to my respected judges. I am Titli Ghosh, and today I am going to speak for the topic, online schooling is the way to future. In view of the novel coronavirus, online classes have been the most effective way of education. Even in this pandemic situation, it has connected the teachers with the students. So if we talk about the benefits of the online classes, then let us begin with the time management. It definitely saves the time which is required for traveling to school. And thus a student can access the education from any part of the world. It has been observed that in the online classes, the attendance is quite higher as compared to the offline classes. It is because it was previously not possible for every student to go to school regularly, but now a student can definitely attend each and every classes. Students can now go through the online courses and earn their degree, and they can simultaneously do their jobs. This is effective for the students, mostly for the college students. Other than that, online classes provide interactive studies and study materials through videos, photos, presentations, and ebooks. And as we know that that day by day our life is becoming more revolutionized when we are more focused on the technology, and technology is overtaking us. Even in our offline classes, there was the introduction of smart classes, smart boards, and through presentations our class used to help. So as we are getting evolved day by day, so we can consider this online class as to be our evolution as well. In this online classes, exams are being conducted in different modes, and mostly in the MCQ format. This MCQ format will help the students in future for persuading in competitive examination, and it has definitely made the task for the teachers quite easier for checking the papers, as it is now completely computerized. So if we consider the advantages of the online classes, then we all know that according to the situation we need to adapt ourselves, and we never know that
for how long this pandemic is going to stay within us and what future holds for us. So I believe according to this, we need to adapt ourselves and moreover, we have already got quite accustomed with the online classes. So I believe in future online classes will get more better and it will be more evolved and it will definitely become flawless someday. Thank you.
Thank you, Titli. We'll now move on to Arpit Chakraborty speaking against the motion. Team 46, our next speaker is Arpit Chakraborty.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
You are audible, but I don't see you on screen. Arpit Chakraborty.
Ma'am, am I visible now?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So once a word said, fear is a reaction and courage is a decision. A great quote said by Sir William Churchill. In this situation, this quote represents our present time very perfectly. Due to the fear of coronavirus COVID-19, we are taking online classes, but the courage is what pushes us for the preparations and beginning of the classes before that Gurukul system. We have done that education in courage, so that's the best way. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am Arpit Chakraborty and I am here to present myself against the topic. As we know, we have offline classes previously, 1.5 years previous. We go outside, get our free doses of vitamin D from our sun. But now it is all our computers and the pixels, the abyss of pixels we are staring into our devices. Considering this, is the online classes have a great disadvantage. As we know, our genetics pushes us to get the easiest way from where we can get dopamine. The dopamine is as we are matured, as seniors are matured, we can conceal ourselves from getting aside from our online classes. But for juniors who are starting their career of study right now, they are not concealed. They are not concerned. They are just finding for the dopamine. They are just doing something for that fun, but online classes is no fun. The featured and the school is developed in a way to push their children into a fun learning schedule that will make his or her life. But the online classes is not doing that and pushing and pulling the children back from doing something great. So viewing on the larger profile, a generation and might go backward, but the problem will stay. Some problems might be cured because as our topic goes, is it a better way in the future? The future might change the network problems, but there are some problems that can be changed. The psychological problems, the psychological effect an online class have on our children, the connection issues. These are the problems, the sociability skills that hold the most. We need to change this, otherwise the effects, the health effects and the psychological effects will continue. Thank you, teachers.
Thank you, Arpit, for sharing your views. Our next contestant is Nandini Dev from Team 47, speaking in favor of the motion. Nandini Dev.
Am I visible and audible?
You are audible. You are audible, but I don't see you on screen. Are you connected to the video?
Yes, ma'am.
Give us a second. We just try and fix it. Switch off and switch on. Switch off and then switch on again. Yes, you are visible. You are Nandini Dev, speaking in favor of the motion.
Good afternoon, one and all present here. I'm Nandini Dev and I'm going to speak for the motion that online schooling is the way of the future. So the term schooling is what is going to decide that whether it's the online or offline mode that is going to be prevalent in the future. The schooling is what is the education that is imparted in school. But however, do we think that this is the form of education, the same syllabuses, the same curriculum is going to prevail in the future? No. Education has undergone a lot of changes in the past and will inevitably undergo a lot more in the future with technologies, with cutting-edge technologies making a place for itself in what we call a digital age. Nothing in this world is constant except change. Change is the only thing constant. And so our education system and the schooling system is bound to change. And so we have to adapt our approach to schooling system in that way. Our schooling system, our mode of schooling system is not the only thing that is going to change. Rather, it's the entire paradigm that we are currently in, which is going to undergo a shift of perspective. The schooling system will probably focus more on specialization of skills because industries need more skilled workers. Skilled in the sense soft skills is something which is so important right now. And when it comes to skills, online schooling take over the established traditional methods of schooling system because online schooling is faster. It saves a lot of time. It is cheap. And most importantly, it is accessible from any part of the world. It is a much more customized form of learning where a student can learn at his or her own pace. It's a tailored form of education, fashioned in a way to help a child understand his or her potential and design an educational plan for them. They can identify their skill set. They can find a skill set which they would like to turn into a career option for themselves. They can take a course in a university or an institution which is in a broad country. All these things are made possible for them.
Always be kind to others. Always be kind to others. Always be
Now
kind
we
to
have
others.
to see what the future looks like. The future is going to be the hands of artificial intelligence. The coming revolution of artificial intelligence is going to usher in a tectonic shift in how our youths learn and how we teach our youth. But in the present, we are in the midst of a pandemic. And this is not the last pandemic that the mankind will encounter. There will be natural disasters. There will be other catastrophes. But will our education system always be affected by such agents? But the online schooling system is the option, is the solve, it's the solution to such problems. The world is going through an extreme refugee crisis right now. What about the students, about the children who are refugees? Is it possible for them to attend a physical class, to attend a school? But an online schooling system can provide them a relief in such a situation. If institutions, organizations, governments come together, they can make this possible. Online education can be made possible for every student around the world with only a little bit of effort. Artificial intelligence, cutting-edge technology will be there to make it possible. It's a challenge for mankind, but mankind has faced difficult, more tougher challenges than this. We did not have laptops and mobiles 5 decades back, but we have it now and we take it for granted. So maybe in a decade or two, we'll make online education possible for every children in every hook and crook of the world. And online education is the only form of education that every student receives a proper education. Thus, I would like to rest my speech by saying that, yes, online schooling is the way of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandini. We'll now move on to our next speaker. Speaking against the motion, we have Disha Maiti from Team 47. Disha Maiti, the floor is yours.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are, Disha.
Okay, ma'am. I'm starting. Consider this. 73% of Indians do not have access to a proper internet connection. India has 1.02 billion mobile subscriptions, but only 15% of them has broadband internet. In such scenarios, the ambition of providing only online mode of education to the masses in the coming future seems a bit questionable. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Disha Maiti, and I firmly stand against the motion of the House. With the pandemic taking the whole world by surprise, our lives had undergone a drastic change. Physical distancing is a new normal. For such reasons, many sectors, specifically the education system, had to resort to the only option available, online teaching. Now, online schooling was definitely the need of the hour, but not necessarily the future of education. Shifting to digital platforms gave an obvious advantage to only the rich and the privileged, who have better gadgets, better connectivity, and more familiarity with such technology.
Education means what? It is supposed to be a social leveler, but this new mode of teaching only creates a digital divide amongst us. When we are planning to provide online schooling, we need to think about each and every one who constitute the student population. Many households are not able to provide the perfect learning environment that one gets in the school. This can adversely affect the education quality that is received by the student. Now, this e-learning can also cause a lot of isolation from social life. Personal interactions, collaborative engagements, conversations, meetings, mingling with our peer community. We are missed out from everything. The teacher-student interaction, the feedback mechanism significantly drops when we are in online mode. There is a lack of motivation as online school often fails to provide an environment where students can collectively interact in a healthy competition. Physical schooling also creates a disciplinary structure which we follow properly, we get a sense of belonging to a larger community. But with no one to constantly guide us at our homes, students feel adrift and lost. It makes it easier for the students to procrastinate, and effective learning therefore reduces in so many cases. Our mental and physical health is totally up for a toss as almost every student is inflicted with depression, anxiety, eye problem, backache, headaches, sleeping disorders, and whatnot. Physical schooling definitely cannot be completely replaced with online schooling in the future. Thank you.
Who was telling? Disha, Mike.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Disha, expressing your opinions. We'll now move on to Aritrika Biswas speaking in favor of the motion. Team 48, Aritrika Biswas.
Ma'am, am I audible and clear?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening to the judges and all my debate mates present out there. Without wasting my time, I'll come to the point. With the revolution in the modern world, technology is making our daily lives way more simple and convenient. Technology dominates everything so much that it changes the meaning of classroom learning we once used to know. Now, online schooling switch up what we expect from learning experiences, processes, and environment. First off, traditional education from physical classes makes education more static and knowledge limited. We need to evolve in order to avoid extinction, and online schooling is saving the education system now. The age-old mindsets needs to be changed now. Next, online teaching is enthusiastically adopted by many educational institutions to provide world-class education to students across the globe. In Australia, they don't have many schools, thus online education is the most effective way out. I think that speaks a lot of facts. If they can, why not us when it is utmost required? Speaking of India, it has the cheapest internet in the world, so the matter of unavailability to the masses is pointless. Online learning allows better quality interaction between the students as the teachers have various teaching methods at their disposal. Apparently, teachers tend to focus more on individual students in online classes than in the physical class. Like introvertism is a thing today. Take me as an example. I'm an introvert who is more comfortable interacting and speaking from behind the screens than in person. So it will probably provide more chances to the students who are too shy or nervous to speak up in public. Nonetheless, they will be more comfortable in gaining knowledge from where they belong. As for the cost of effectiveness, according to teen enthusiast Daphne Keller, online education can serve two goals. For students lucky enough to have access to great teachers, blended learning means better outcomes at same or at lower cost. And for millions abroad who lacks good in-person education online can open doors that once used to remain closed. The choice is always yours. Thus, I'd like to conclude my speech stating online education offers distinctive behavior over traditional learning in physical classroom. As for future, online education is going to take over the education system as it keeps on improvising and opening new doors. It's not my opinion, it's a fact. Thank you to the judges and my fellow mates for hearing me out. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Aratrika. And now our final speaker for this debating session, speaking against the proposition and from Team 48, we have Oishika Jana.
Ma'am, am I audible and visible?
Yes, Oishika.
Good morning to our esteemed team of judges, respected coordinator, and my worthy opponents present out here. I am Oishika Jana and I stand firmly against the point that online education is the way of the future. Although institutions made a shift to the online mode of learning amid lockdown restrictions, in comparison to traditional learning, online learning is still far behind. Rightly said by Peter C. Harman, technology advocates may see online teaching as the best forward path, but one important audience vociferously disagrees: students. Yes, till now, maximum students will agree with the point that online schooling cannot provide us with quality education. Yes, I do agree. Introduction of technology to education is both useful and necessary. But the advent of online education or schooling in its current form, like classes being held in online platform, lectures being pre-recorded and uploaded ahead of time, no face-to-face interaction is not the future of education. At least not yet, with so many drawbacks and inconveniences. There are many barriers in e-learning, and the most important one is distraction from improper work environment of home. Of course, I agree that distraction also exists in traditional classes as per mentioned by many of my opponents, but the overall school environment is still designed to allow for learning. Traditional classes in school usually have low risk of technical problems that interrupt the flow of lessons. Microphone is not working, loss of connections are common issues in online schooling. I myself once had my mic cut at the beginning of a 10 minutes presentation, which was worth of 15% of my final marks. And obviously it was a worse situation for me, which I had to face just due to this online mode of schooling. Now, as a student of science, I would obviously prefer traditional and face-to-face classes for the ability to facilitate a better classroom discussion. Moreover, practical sessions for science subjects are very much required to make them more interesting, which is not at all possible in online schooling. Now, last but not the least point is the lack of connection with my friends. Due to this online mode of education, connection and networking between peers are severely limited, which will obviously affect in our future social connection. This adds upon the importance of having traditional learning above the online schooling. And of course, online education is not our immediate future. It is the only option in current pandemic situation, but needs a lot of work to be way of the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ishika. So that was our final speaker for today's event. We've had 24 teams and we've had 48 speakers speaking their views for and against. Now I would request our esteemed judges to speak a few lines. To begin with, I would request Mrs. Aparna Mukherjee to speak a few words.
Good afternoon, Principal Ma'am, and everyone. Hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, everyone in the Zoom meet. It was a pleasure to hear all the speakers, and it's a pleasure also to be a part of this ASISCE regional debate. we as educators have been trying hard to cope with this situation, right? And trying to steer out through the academic sessions. As we all know, necessity is the mother of invention. And we have tried various ways to make this teaching learning more a symphony than a cacophony. So let's look forward to such events like this more and more, which will encourage students and teachers alike for such lively interaction, sharing ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for your presence. May we now have the pleasure of hearing Ms. Shreya Banerjee.
Principal ma'am, and my fellow judges and my students that are present here. It was an absolute pleasure to be present here as a judge. Debate, of course, teach you all. I'm addressing the students. Students, you know that you will learn how to think critically, how to analyze, how to become good speaker, good presenters, communicators, okay? And this debate gives this to you. And it was absolutely wonderful to see these young minds thinking critically in such an analytical way and presenting themselves with such a wonderful clarity in their speech. And it was absolutely wonderful to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Banerjee, for being with us. And finally, we would request Shomi Chatterjee Ganguly ma'am to speak a few words.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, one and all. It was indeed a burning topic for today's debate. I really feel to be in the panel of judges today and also feel really very privileged to listen to such talented young speakers, both for and against the motion. It feels all the speakers have tried their level best to vent out their real feelings in the motion, on the motion. I, as an educator, personally feel that teaching online, that is the new normal, is itself and indeed a challenging task, as it involves keeping the enthusiasm among the students on, and that to keeping them bound or engaged in the curriculum. So finally, I would like to wish all the participants out here their best and the best for their efforts for their future, and let us all hope for better days to come. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we wind up this debating session, I would like Mr. Mitter to present a vote of thanks. Mr. Mitter is a principal of the Future Foundation School and the Secretary of the West Bengal and Northeast for the Association of School for the Indian School Certificate. So we'll all hear a vote of thanks from Mr. Mitter.
Just to say a warm thank you to all for taking part in learning their schools in the senior level debate competition. A great thank you and congratulations and gratitude to Douglas Memorial ASICS and for organizing this competition. I warmly remember who was instrumental in
the video will be visible in a while. We're just facing a technical glitch.
Just to say a warm thank you to all the students who are taking part and their teachers and their schools in the senior level inter-school debate competition. And a great thank you and congratulations and gratitude to Douglas Memorial Higher Secondary School, who've come forward to organize this competition. We warmly remember Dr. George Hess, who was instrumental in creating the Association of Schools for the Indian School Certificate, which now has 1,600 schools pan-India, and it is in his name that this competition is being organized today. Thank you, one and all.
So with that, we come to the end of this debating session. And I would like to thank all principal of the school, Ms. Sonia Gitla, the teachers, the judges, and of course the participants for being with us here today. We have had a wonderful debating session and looking forward to having such debating sessions in the near future. Thank you.